Welcome everyone to this special Star Wars edition of the podcast. I am very sick, so apologies in advance. But as far as introductions go, I am Supreme Leader Steve. Ernie, if you could introduce yourself.
In a very Star Wars way?
Yes, please.
I'm Ernie One Kenobi.
Okay, and we have our Star Wars expert, Kevin. Babu Kevin, is that what you said? Alrighty. I would have gone with Jedi expert, Star Wars, extraordinaire Kevin, but sure, that works too.
Alright.
So we all saw Rise of Skywalker.
Spoilers, right, guys?
Yeah, just spoilers, just as a kibosh to everything in here, because we're going to go through it pretty much point by point.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers AF.
Yeah, spoilers AF. And honestly, for all the people who are listening to this, if you wanted to listen to this, you definitely want to know what we have to say about it. And there's no way to review this movie without going into spoilers. There just isn't.
Yeah. If you're avoiding spoilers, I don't think you're clicking on any videos. We wanted to just give our brief thoughts before we start diving into the movie. But I think we all are in agreement that we liked the movie. I personally loved it. I thought it was really good. But I'm just in it for Kylo Ren. I was in it since the beginning for Kylo Ren.
Redemption.
Yeah.
I think mine is a little closer to some other friends of mine where I liked it. But I parts about it I just can't get over.
Okay.
Just some things that, and this is myself being a little jaded by the movie industry.
Okay.
So that's why it bothers me, because a lot of the things that happened, you could tell were made, or in my opinion, were made by like a very business decision. You know what I mean? Exactly.
There were parts where I was like, okay, so that's merchandise.
So you check that off.
Okay.
Kevin?
Yeah, what about you, Kevin?
I liked it. Much better than the previous film.
Okay.
I think what it is, I remember also liking TFA, and so I think when I look back on this, I go, gosh, I guess I like J.J. Abrams. Because of the three, I like the two JJs most. Not that I hated the other one, but if I'm looking at the three, I go, I like the first one, I like the last one, that one's okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I gotta say, too, I feel like people have kind of turned around on Last Jedi. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like all of a sudden people are defending it in light of this new one. They're just like, oh, well, this one kind of retreads things, whereas Last Jedi was a little more original. And I was like, I guess you could say that.
So Luke being a hater is original? I mean, look, I remember, that controversy. Mark Hamill was not thrilled with what they were doing with his character. Yeah. And I got to tell you, and after seeing it, I wasn't thrilled about him being... I mean, I could understand maybe a little reluctance, but just to be that vehemently against it. And then almost in this movie suggesting as a Force ghost that Leia knew she was a Palpatine. That means he had to know she was a Palpatine. So is that the reason? Is that the reason that he was being so indignant and not wanting to train her? It didn't really... I don't know. It bothered me. And also in the other film, we never really got that moment that we could have had with Luke, Leia, and Han in the Falcon going somewhere and doing something. Would have been incredible. And I think they threw away an opportunity in that movie that would have been. I know it's fan service and everything like that, but whatever. I mean, obviously Mark wanted it. Mark thought that would be a cool idea. Sure. So maybe there's some other people on this planet that might have been down with that. But that's going backwards. On this, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, I follow Star Wars Explained. I liked it a little more than Alex did. He really didn't like the Emperor coming back, and I actually liked in that one video game where the emissary, it's like an android, and the Emperor's face is a hologram inside its head. I thought, oh, that's cool. But because in the novels I was telling you about, the Aftermath series, the Emperor had contingency plan after contingency plan after contingency plan. And in the book, in time span from the end of Return of the Jedi all the way up through The Force Awakens, it tells the story. And in those stories, you find that he was lying to Vader a lot. there's one thing where he's telling Vader, go to the far side of the forest moon and wait there. He will come to you. He goes away. This other guy comes in, Gallius Rax, says, all right, I want you to go to Jakku. And it gives him another thing to do. You're like, holy crap. So he's like, Vader missed this guy by minutes. And it was on purpose. So, and he also explains that when he has these visions, I have seen it. He saw many ends to how this was going to end, where it totally goes their way, where it totally doesn't go his way, where everything, so he was, to the fact that he's alive in this, I know Alex was pissed about it and he didn't really like it very much, but I look at it and I go, if, that all his contingency plans, could there have been one where he was cloned or had or some, like we saw Luke project himself to create. And it was just his ghost, but maybe what we saw when he falls down that hole with the electricity coming up, when he supposedly dies, maybe that wasn't. I mean, I don't think it was powerful with the Force, but when you hit the bottom of something, who shoots electricity out? Maybe he did some sort of a Sith spell and transported himself, and that's what you're seeing. I don't know, but
I feel like all things considered, they did a pretty good job.
I agree.
I don't really mind the Palpatine thing. Like, him coming back is like... I like if it
upsets some people more than others. It only mildly upsets
me. To me, it feels just as fan servicey as having Han, Luke, and Leia in it, So I'm like... There are people that like the prequels, and... what's his name? Ian McDiarmid? Is that his name? The guy who plays...
Oh, yeah. Is it Ian? I can't remember his name.
The guy that plays
Palpatine, who is great.
A lot of people were happy to see him come back. So in that regard, I was like, okay. I mean, people were happy to see some of the old actors come back too. So I mean, as far as like story goes, I don't give a shit. It's explosions in space. I don't really question much.
I'll say this: I follow these guys, Red Letter Media, and one of their theories about this whole thing was time travel. Mm-hmm. And knowing J.J. Abrams. Time travel, parallel universe, this is not something that he shies away from. Right. So I was actually predicting, I was almost expecting them to do that because, for one, if you do that, it's free range on anybody to come back. So you could have just brought everybody back, made a ton of money from toy sales. And I thought, that's a great business decision. Bring everybody back, have the Vaders, have all these people come
Vaders,
back.
I like that.
So when I saw that they didn't do that, I was like, okay, so there was some restraint. But when they brought back Palpatine, I thought, so they've just gone back to the well, right? Because a lot of the problems some people had with Force Awakens was that how George famously said about the prequels, it's like poetry, they rhyme. Mm-hmm. So they were just kind of taking that story from A New Hope and kind of retelling it, right? So a lot of this felt like the same idea, because even cinematically, a lot of the imagery that you saw, like at the very end especially, Rey's facing off against the Emperor, and then out in the distance you can see them fighting, and he's like, they're gonna die.
Just like in Jedi.
Just like in Jedi. And it's like the same...
Repeating themes.
Repeating things, exactly. But even the cinematography looked very similar. And some of that bothered me only because... You could take it one of two ways. You could take it as homage, or you could take it as, well, they're just replaying. They're just using the playbook again.
When it comes to like that Sith stuff, though, I feel like it's still in character. Like how like the light side of the Force is more about like just let go and just become part of the Force, and like the Sith is over here more like materialistic. Like Kevin was saying, how they like to dig up ancient Sith stuff.
Yeah, apparently when you're a Sith Lord, they like to collect Sith artifacts.
Yeah, like they're more materialistic, and instead of Palpatine dying, he's like holding on to life with this gigantic claw thing. And like to me, that kind of sounds like something they would do, I guess. It doesn't. That's why to me it's not.
Just like a really quick side thing. That thing reminded me of Captain EO. Did anybody get that vibe from there?
Which thing?
Do you remember the claw thing that he's attached to? Do you remember that from Captain EO? Yeah. And I was like, that's Captain EO.
Send in my big warriors.
I was like, oh, okay, that's the Disneyland part. Okay.
You think me beautiful?
I mean, some of the same directors, was it not?
Well, Lucas was involved.
Oh, there you go.
I think with John. I just blanked on his name.
I heard Spielberg was part of that too. Like he had some collaboration with like 4 big directors.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Okay.
We'll have to Google it. No, but actually, what you were saying about the artifacts, it wasn't just because they were collectors and put them on the shelf. It was an effort to tap further into the unnatural powers of the Sith.
Yeah, well, even like Kylo has his Vader's helmet.
Yes, somehow. So he did it too because that was his way. But there's more artifacts than that out there, and it's covered in lots of books. I told you earlier that the whole way the way that Vader built his castle was through a Sith artifact that was a helmet that was sort of haunted by a Sith Lord, and whomever wore it, then that guy was able to channel through that. And that's how they told him how to build his castle to make it more.
Well, speaking of ancient Sith technology, I should say, we just start off by saying that the movie starts with Kylo going out into the forest of some planet. I wasn't sure which one.
That was actually Mustafar.
Okay,
yeah,
so the Vader planet.
Yeah, at least that's what it says here in the visual dictionary.
Kevin brought his visual dictionary for the benefit of the podcast, and it's it's like if you haven't seen these books, I believe they do them for every single movie release, right? To kind of show off the tech and the different production sketches and everything.
Yeah, so Kylo's going around shredding people up, looking for this Sith Wayfinder, which is supposed to give you the directions to where this Sith temple is that Palpatine's at.
Which is kind of like The Force Awakens when they're looking for Luke, right?
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like it's like poetry.
It's kind of like it rhymes, yeah, totally.
That's a good point. I didn't even mention that. I didn't even think about that. So then he goes over and he meets Palpatine.
Sure.
Who is all messed up and
passed through the red stuff, right?
Yeah.
And why is that red stuff significant again?
It just in the in some of the books they talk about traveling through the outer rim, that there's these places that are just impossible to get through. They say it in the lines in the movie. They say,
you can't go through, you need a guide.
Yeah, you need a guide because you get lost out there.
Mm-hmm.
And several of the books have described it several ways, and some of it could manifest the way we saw it there. There's just people do not like going into what they call the uncharted or unknown space out there. It's because of those problems.
Gotcha.
Okay, so Palpatine is revealed. I thought he looked pretty cool, actually.
Well, no, of course he looks awesome. I mean, it's Palpatine. You just do the old guy makeup, and then you do the eyes, and then you got the voice. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's Palpatine in a nutshell right there.
Okay.
Did you enjoy the whole laboratory thing he had set up with infinite lightning?
Yeah, I mean, I don't give a fuck about that.
Oh yeah, well that scene when he's shooting the lightning up at all the ships, I want to hear that in a room that's got 20-inch 808s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably cause a heart attack.
Yeah. Okay, so then after that he reveals I'm still alive and whatnot. They cut to Millennium Falcon, Chewie, Finn, Poe, our heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And they start to what is it called? Light speed skipping?
Light speed skipping.
Yeah, so after they retrieve this little what did they even get? It was like a map or something, or
it was just a data file that for R2, a message that he had was encoded or something that he had to decode.
By the way, that guy that says win the war, remember he it sounded like Mark Hamill, and I was telling Ernie, was that Mark Hamill? Because I know Mark Hamill loves to do voices, so I wasn't sure.
Good question. Don't know.
Okay. Well, it would be.
But it kind of sounds like him. He leaned over during the movie and was like, "Is that Mark Hamill? Sounds a little Jokerish." I was like,
"This guy
could be."
Yeah. Does it say voiced by Mark Hamill?
They don't do that. They don't do that.
Well, anyway, so they're doing that. They're doing that sequence where they're running from the TIE fighters.
Mm-hmm.
And I always love seeing the Millennium Falcon's targeting system.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, we get to see it target something other than a ship. It targets the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then
so it'll collapse down the islands.
And I thought that was badass. I just love how I like how when they go back to the old 70s era tech where it looks like it shouldn't be in Star Wars, but for some reason it is.
Because everything apparently needs to have wires in the 70s.
Yeah.
So it's nothing is wireless in the future.
I'll tell you what's happened in these 3 movies is why does everybody go to the bottom turret? Cannot figure that one out. And B, you brought that Claude guy along as a technician. You've got Chewie and Poe flying it. Couldn't Chewie handle flying it? And maybe Poe go get into the top turret and then
supposedly Poe's the better pilot.
Well, somebody could have come along. They got I wouldn't even care if who they put. They just put somebody. Mm-hmm. Put Nine Nub in that top turret. Somebody, and just then But I since the first one, I realized that when they left Jakku, they only had the two people. But in this one, there's no excuse. If they brought that guy that has the fingers on his head to fix whatever,
he's only in that one scene.
I know. Well, he's back on the planet. He's in the background doing stuff.
He's doing stuff.
He's doing stuff. He's a stuff doer.
I do feel like they introduced a lot of new characters that I was kind of like lukewarm on. I was like, why does
Luke?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. It's whatever. More characters, cool. More toys, more merchandise, right?
I guess.
How do you guys feel about the light speed skipping? Because I know a lot of people were like,
well, if you go back to New Hope, Han does tell Luke to calm down because of what could happen if you don't have the coordinates punched in. And I'm pretty sure we got to see that manifested.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the thing, like that's the thing that confuses. Like, if this guy's just doing it at random, like he doesn't have his clearance to light speed, because from what I understand of how that works is like you have to have your coordinates set up because you're traveling through something so fast that not only can you annihilate yourself when you come out, but you could potentially be causing issues as you're traveling through this light spectrum.
Yeah, there's hyperspace lanes from what and some of the novels that like the Thrawn novels, that especially the one where that Vader is teamed up with Thrawn. They're trying to get somewhere, and somebody's moving these planets and gravitational fields around so that they're screwing up the hyperlanes. They have to stop and move and stuff. So it's making them have to stop and go a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So the lanes are set up. I saw a map of it once too somewhere, the hyperspace lanes, and that actually tells you quite a bit on how you get from places to places, because they talk about the in Naboo, the blockade and that whole thing, and the lanes for commerce. There's a whole map that explains this. It's
that sounds insane.
I didn't really it didn't bother me too much. Han does something similar in Force Awakens when they arrive on Starkiller Base.
Well, he
does like a light speed landing.
Right. He comes through the atmosphere at light speed, so that he doesn't get detected because they have a fractional whatever refresh rate on their shielding, whatever, and can't stop light speed. I'm okay with that. All he did, instead of pulling up here, he pulled up here. Okay. He went beyond the. This is different. This is having no course and just going for X amount of time, and where you come out, and I would say they got lucky. I think it's I thought about that. Yeah, it's dangerous for them, but imagine the guys in those TIE fighters doing it.
See, that's the part I couldn't figure out, because they're coming up right behind him. So
they're taking the same risk.
Yeah, well, like in terms of like, and this is getting a little like, I'm not too fluent in math, but from what I understand is like even a 1 degree difference in somebody's path, depending on how far out you go, could be millions and millions of miles apart. So how did they just like set up right behind him and jump? Or were they just tracking him?
If we go back to the last Jedi, they make that claim that they can track us in hyperspace now.
Okay.
So if you have that, in order to accept that, you have to accept that now they can do it anytime.
Now they can just do it anytime.
I feel like ultimately the scene was trying to set up the fact that things are going to move fast. At least that's how I interpreted it. Because like a lot of people did say like the movie moved kind of fast at the start, and I was just sitting there like I was entertained the whole damn time.
Yeah.
So,
well, like cinematically, the whole movie is kind of set up for you in the first like 5 minutes with that all the stuff that we just covered when it comes to Kylo and all that. It's set up in such a way where right after the title crawl, you go into this slow motion fight, but there's a lot of quick cuts in it.
Yeah.
Like they keep cutting. It's like he gets hit, but it's all in slow motion, and they cut, and then boom, another slow motion, and then they cut, and then he gets the thing star-wide somewhere else, then at the planet. everything's happening slowly in the scene, but they cut it very quickly.
Yeah.
And it became the theme for the entire movie,
right.
where that things were happening slowly in the scenes, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're cut and you're on the other side of the galaxy kind of thing. I don't know. I'm kind of lukewarm on this. I'm not trying to make that same joke, but I'm kind of in the middle.
Okay,
on
you're
that.
brothers.
But I don't know if that pacing would work for any other type of movie. Right?
Yeah, well, when it comes to like something like Return of the Jedi, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, that was my favorite one just because it was the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's where everything wraps up. And this one is kind of the same to me, where I'm like, this is where all the shit happens. You know, like this is like, they're going to do all that they can in the amount of time that they have.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of people were saying, like, why didn't Rose Tico have more time on screen? And I'm kind of
know why.
I'm like, yes, well, yeah, first of all.
Why?
But also, I'm like...
We know why, because of the fan reaction.
Yeah,
I think there was a conscious... This is one of the things that bothered me about the movie, was there was definitely like a fan
I thought
course correction for Rose.
Being mean to her because she was a little overweight, which for the life of me...
Overweight?
That's what I heard.
I had always heard that her part in the in The Last Jedi was... It felt shoehorned in. That's what fans were saying, that they're like, her story was completely like, there was no need for it.
Yeah, I don't think people really liked her at all.
But yeah, like they felt like that was taking away time from other things. Because of their mission being a failure, spoiler alert for that movie, they were just like, what did we spend all this time doing then?
Uh-huh.
And then her kind of romantically linking with Finn, a lot of people apparently didn't like that.
Disappeared completely.
It disappeared.
Movie.
Absolutely. Like, I feel that Rose's part was to help Finn out when they were on top of that Star Destroyer at the very end of the movie. I feel like that whole thing was supposed to be Rose. But then they kind of put the kibosh on that, and they were just like, no, wait, JJ doesn't like that because that's a Rian Johnson joint.
Uh-huh.
When we come back, we're going to introduce some new some more Stormtrooper things.
Right.
And we're going to come back to that. Like, it feels like more of a reaction instead of a story decision.
I didn't need that new character. There's just like so much stuff already in the universe.
Yeah.
I was like, why couldn't they just I don't know,
work with what they had?
Yeah, we'll get to more stuff, more gripes I have later on. But so we come back and we see Rey training with Leia.
Yep.
Which is it's all like they recreated Leia from like repurposed footage, and her lines of dialogue are from like deleted scenes and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's what I understand. It's a bunch of footage that they
all
have.
of it.
Yeah, well, I don't know about all of it. It just seems that from what I heard online is a large portion of it was from unused material from previous movies.
Yeah, which is she's like so she's in the Force and she's training and stuff. Is she not just wearing the same outfit she wore in Force Awakens?
It's obviously one of them.
Okay.
I mean, I'd have to get that other visual dictionary out, and I could tell you.
That to me.
Why didn't you bring all your books, Kevin?
Well,
that to me was kind of like, I was kind of like whatever on that. I was kind of hoping she'd be wearing something like badass, you know?
Sure.
Because like in Return of the Jedi, it's like Luke appears and he just looks badass, you know? Like he's got all black.
I was, you know what? Now that you're mentioning, I'm honestly surprised they hadn't done it, because I would say they had about 90% success with the end of Rogue One, where they showed young Leia.
Yeah.
Especially in that light, because of, the way that her ship has the lights set up in it. It's
office
all
lighting.
like TV.
It's like office lighting.
Yeah, it's office lighting, right? So it's like everything can look just a little kind of bland. I feel like they could have just done the same thing here and just be like, fuck it, new Leia. We're only going to have her in a couple scenes and just fucking use it, you know? I mean, CG Leia. They did it with Grand Moff Tarkin. People seem to enjoy that.
Deep fakes Leia.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. That's not a bad idea. But, her with Rey was endearing. Mm-hmm. I gotta say. I enjoyed, they didn't do it on purpose, obviously, but I like the whole thing where she's like floating and got the, for fans of the Avatar The Last Airbender, the things like the rings of things going around her. I enjoyed that.
There was like literally a part in that there in KOTOR, there was like literally a scene where you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Where you're floating with your legs crossed and you're Indian style, and you have like all this stuff floating around you.
No, yeah, I think
she was a nucleus. She made a nucleus of herself.
Yeah.
Her outer electrons.
She made herself the center of the universe.
Well, anyway, she's got the damn blue lightsaber again, and I feel like I'm in one of those cartoons where like they throw the neighbor out and they turn around and he's there again.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, they can't get rid of this fucking lightsaber because
Luke keeps catching it.
Because Luke.
Right.
Luke has a perfectly good green lightsaber that nobody's using. It's getting shafted this whole fucking trilogy.
It's because it's called Rise of Skywalker, and they're just like, this was the Skywalker lightsaber that got passed down from Skywalker to Skywalker.
It makes no sense.
Of course it doesn't. But, I mean, yeah, at this point, supposedly Rey is at almost complete Jedi Master.
Let me go ahead and jump ahead for a second here. Why don't they just give Rey her yellow lightsaber now?
That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Because, Luke, that's what Luke did in the last movie, right?
Luke, and I know how they love to have these scenes where, like, the lightsabers are, like, complementary colors when they're fighting.
Sure.
Right? You could have had Ben and her with a blue and yellow lightsaber, complementary colors. They fucked up. Just give her the yellow lightsaber.
The yellow one at the end.
Yeah, why don't they just give it to her at the beginning, though, is what we're saying. Like,
yeah, I don't know why they didn't just stick to those primary colors, because, like, red, yellow, and blue would have been perfectly...
I don't know. And I was thinking, like, in my head, I was like, oh, they might have some kind of explanation, like, yellow kyber crystal comes from somewhere special that she can't get now or something.
It comes from Tatooine, a cave on Tatooine, because that's where she went back to, right?
We'd have to assume it was built before she arrived.
Well, let's go ahead and assume that.
Yeah, I have a question, too. So she's reading the Jedi texts.
The ones that she stole from the...
Yeah, I guess. Would you consider that a retcon?
No.
No?
No, because she stole it in the movie.
They show her stealing it. They make it pretty well known that she got him out of there before we burned that thing down.
But just because, like, Luke makes it a big deal, like, that... Oh, so she takes all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think how they show in the movie that she's got him in the Falcon.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's destroying them all, which is funny to me.
Okay. And Yoda's laughing at him.
So he's so later on when Luke appears, he's still like, yeah, too bad.
What are those?
Too bad the text got all burned up.
I burned down an empty tree for no reason.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, technically Yoda lit that shit on fire with some Force lightning.
That was so awesome. I love that scene. I like Yoda. Okay, so Kylo Ren fixes his helmet. Is that a retcon?
Yes. I think it's a not a middle finger, but maybe like a what's less than a middle finger? Would it be a
shocker? I don't know.
But it's like a little nod to Rian Johnson, be like, nah, we're putting this shit back together. You destroyed it in the last one, but we're putting that shit back together.
Do you know what kintsugi is?
No.
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
That Japanese way of repairing pottery,
So, with the gold leaf.
Yeah. With like the gold filling in the cracks.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about it that way, the mentality behind that is like you're embracing the history of what happened here.
Right.
So in my head, I'm kind of like...
That makes more sense than
why
not just make a new helmet?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if it was a merchandising grab, why make a new helmet? We talk about that. Now we could sell a new Kylo helmet.
Because this is the easiest way to make a new helmet without having to make an entirely new mold. You know what I mean? Just paint some red lines in that shit.
Yeah, but if it's a true merchandising grab, make a new helmet.
Yeah.
Really, you know what I mean? Go ahead and redesign it completely. Make it more like a Vader style or something, whatever.
Yeah, I mean... You're not wrong. I'm just wondering how cheap they were trying to be. They're just like, you know what? We'll take the old one.
I think it's more along what Steve is saying.
You think so?
Yeah, because if you know what that is, I did see a video on it, and it's what you said, and it's that you don't want to get rid of that bowl because it's a family piece. It's a night, and it's a way of repairing it and showing the history of and the fact that maybe it had some, maybe whatever it was made out of had some Sith legend behind it or something. So we don't know. I'd have to read up. I haven't made it to the helmet yet. I just got the book recently, but I would be not surprised to find out that metal came from some Sith artifact or something that had dark power.
Well, I mean, I know that Kevin knows this, so as soon as I mention this, he'll know. Like, Star Wars is technically based on an old Japanese film.
Right.
What is it called again?
the
House of something.
Seventh Samurai. That's the one where the samurai train a village to
something like that. So it's I mean it's rooted already in Japanese culture.
Go back to the old style lightsaber fighting. That was very kendo. Samurai style, the way they held the swords and fought.
When you study film, you learn that we stole a lot of things from the Japanese. We stole a lot of things from old Japanese.
There's nothing original, man. Everybody steals.
Wow.
But anyway, so they go from that scene to them at this desert planet named Pisana, if I'm reading that correctly. And they said that they have this festival there that happens every 42 years, which apparently is supposed to be a nod to how long the first one came out, right? 42 years ago.
Is that it?
Did they say 40 or 42?
It's 42.
Oh, because I would say that's
a
Douglas reference. I'd go right to Hitchhiker's.
Yeah. That's the answer to all life.
That's another thing I heard too.
But that's also when Kylo figures out where they are, right?
Yeah.
Because he's able to, and again they do that thing where they show that Kylo and Ren share this bond where they can pull shit from each other's environments.
You know what's kind of weird though? So they go to that place Pisana, and they talk about the sinking fields.
Yeah.
There's sinking fields on Jakku in the first film.
What are you talking about?
When they crash land the TIE fighter, Finn and Poe, they go into a sinking field.
Jakku, yeah.
So I was like,
right.
I wonder why they didn't just go back to Jakku. Like maybe it would have been stupid or something, but. They had to make up this
they
whole
had
new
to pick
planet.
up this trail, so they needed a new location.
They needed to meet Lando Calrissian, who was apparently on Pisana for some reason.
Lando.
He says why he was there, because he was there with Luke trying to track this thing down.
Find
why
this.
And he just kind of settled down.
Because he likes to party.
Yeah.
Besides, they had Colt 45.
That's a dated reference.
Hey, that was my favorite commercial as a kid. I'm like, Lando!
Colt 45.
How did you feel about his cameo, or I guess his part in this movie?
I dug it. I thought it was cool. I don't see what you guys think of this. I've seen him in interviews. I think they de-aged him a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot. But he sounded good, looked good, and...
He smelled good.
It wasn't in 4D, it was in 3D.
I heard he uses a cane now.
Yeah.
So, like, the guy that was in the suit was just, like, some younger guy because he can't move around so much anymore.
Right.
So I'm wondering how they're going to do this fucking spin-off or whatever that they were, like, setting up at the end, but...
I don't know. Maybe they'll they do one of those things where they'll be like, I injured myself and blah, 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 so I'm not with the walking no more kind of thing. You know, they'll do that for sure.
Yeah. So
but
Kylo feels them, and that's what you were saying, right? He grabs Rey's necklace off
of
her
like,
with a force
this is a specific necklace from a specific planet that I know for sure.
Yeah, this is Pisana.
This is made from Pisana.
These are those spring break beads they give out at Pisana. So I know where they're at now.
And then apparently they can be there in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's kind of cool.
Well, speaking of that festival, they like to make you do math here. So on Pisana, it says every 2 years, as recorded by Pisana's 378 standard day journey around its sun, the desert planet spouts a colorful new life in the form of a vivid celebration. So if that works out to 42, if you got a calculator at home, go right ahead.
By the way, this isn't in our notes, but this part I wanted to bring up where the little girl comes up and asks Rey, like, what's your name? And she says Rey, and she's like, what about your last name?
They wanted to drill that home.
I was like, when have they ever fucking given a shit about last names?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like...
They were setting us up.
Poe, Finn, Rey, all of those, nobody gave a shit. They weren't like, Poe what? You know, and all that kind of shit.
Dameron.
I know it's Poe Dameron, but everybody was just like Poe, and then Finn. And then
Finn doesn't have a last name, right?
No. Because that Finn is just, if I'm mistaken, isn't Finn's...
Just FN.
Isn't it part of his number?
Yeah, like serial number or whatever. Yeah.
You mean Nambi Gima was the name of that girl.
That little girl. Okay.
Oh my god.
Thank you.
What about Dexter Jetster?
Jesus.
1950s diner.
Obi-Wan! Hey!
I don't like that you know stuff like that.
Well, of course I know stuff like that. I've actually watched this shit.
The other day, my coworker...
There he is.
There he is. The other day, my coworker mentioned Shmi, and I was like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
Oh my god!
And apparently, Shmi is Anakin's mom, and I was like, "Why do you know these things?"
Shmi.
So I was like, I try to forget everything that happened in the prequels.
Shmi Skywalker.
I just deleted all of that from my memory, and
my friend Meredith always likes to bring up Salacious Crumb.
Salacious B. Crumb.
I'm sorry, Salacious. I'm sorry, Kevin. Salacious B. Crumb. So I think it's if I remember correctly, Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
That thing that laughs.
Yeah.
Like the really Jim Henson-y laugh.
Oh yeah.
A Quakian monkey lizard.
Yeah.
They saw
that's Salacious B. Crumb. He has that name.
Okay.
Salacious B. apparently and Crumb.
They all. Have, that's the crazy thing is they give names to everything. Things you. I mean, it's. If you look through this book, everybody look. That's Akbar's kid.
Yeah, I know that.
This guy's got a name. This guy's got a name. She has a name. I didn't know.
Rose Tico, too.
Everybody knows Rose Tico, but I'm trying to show you the depth that they go to, guys. Every person in this party has a damn name.
Kevin's pointing out things in this book that you guys cannot see, but it's lots of alien creatures.
It's basically everybody in the Resistance at that base that showed up on the screen has a name. Mm-hmm. Not Background Alien 1 or Background Alien 2.
Why can't they just do that?
Because it means they're going to show up in a novel. They're going to be a character in a novel somewhere.
Also, they'll have Max Grebo bust out another piano key solo.
Steve does know that one because
Max Grebo?
What was that?
What?
You don't know Max Grebo?
You said you're from your favorite movie.
Which one?
Return of the Jedi. He's the blue elephant that plays
the band leader.
The keyboard that goes all around him. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
See, I saw
because he doesn't. don't mention Snice Noodles. He won't. Then he'll just lose it.
I saw Return of the Jedi the other day on Disney Plus. And I had to skip that fucking scene with that blue lady singing because I was like, this is the stupidest thing they did to Return of the Jedi. Why is this in
They didn't need to beef up that dance number. I think we had I think that was fine.
And that's why some people... Did you know this, by the way, Steve? This is something I found out. Okay. Because there's still shit Star Wars that I still don't know.
Oh, boy.
In 2007, I found out that Greedo shot first.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
So that's how long it took me to find out. It's not my fault, Kevin. These fucking special editions. Mm-hmm. All right?
You thought that's just the way it was always.
I found out recently that Return of the Jedi, at the end of the movie, there's a whole Ewok song.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You knew that?
Oh,
Have you heard it?
I just recently watched a video that goes through all the different...
Wait a minute. You don't remember the...
No, I don't. I never... We'll set it up again. Me and Steve watched Star Wars at the same time. We watched the special edition re-release right before...
So you guys aren't old enough to have seen it in the theater when it first ran?
No, we saw the special edition when they re-released it.
98, I think?
Yeah.
We saw it with our sisters.
His gray hair is fooling me, so
it was like Friday, Saturday.
I'm 7 years older than him.
We saw it was Friday was New Hope, Saturday was Empire,
and then Sunday was Jedi. Return of the Jedi.
If he's supposed to be the young one, he gets him just for men.
This is how
you go great, because then I can deal with this better.
But yeah, no, we saw all of that all in one weekend.
There's this. Well, you should be able to Google it, right? And do.
Yeah, but here's the thing: how much of the movie are we supposed to Google to know? I didn't know that Greedo shot first. I didn't know that that Han stepped on. He didn't really step on.
Hold on, just for a second. Let's cut in the thing right here. So that 1, 2, 3, and Ernie's gonna play just a snippet of that song right now.
Okay. There you go.
So, what you guys think of that?
Fucking terrible. So glad they cut it out.
I know this. At the time when that song came out, everybody was like, "Okay, this is a celebration song." We all accepted it because we didn't know it could be. I think the updated version is more epic, and it shows the across the galaxy everything, all the Empire pulling down the statues. And
yeah, but it's such a weird song to put at the end of this movie when they're all supposed to be reuniting and stuff. And
it's funny.
That guy died.
Yeah, and it's like a Sesame Street song.
Yeah, it's
what's funny too is so I didn't know that a lot of people had so many problems with Return of the Jedi, right? Because to me, it's always been my favorite one. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize.
I can tell you at the time,
since
I was there, I'm the elder here. I can tell you, I don't remember anybody really having a problem when those movies. That's just it. things have changed with the internet. Now that everybody's got a voice, we can sit here and have a podcast, we can blog, we can vlog. It's giving everybody a voice. But back then, in our neighborhood, we were growing up, nobody complained about the Ewoks. Nobody was like, teddy bears, that's stupid. Da, da, da. Everybody was just like, this is freaking amazing. I want a speeder bike now. You know, and we were, it was all about, you know, we were a little bit older kids, but we still liked, you know, those things. We loved all the merchandising from it. That was a problem. You know, the merchandising is so much better now. It could be so much better now.
Yeah.
It's, you know, my son never played with that. He didn't like Star Wars action figure. I got a couple, he didn't care. He just wanted the Legos. He was all about the Star Wars Legos. You give him an action figure and one of the Kenner things, he couldn't care. He just wanted Star Wars Legos. Weird.
Yeah.
Times have changed. Times have changed.
I was just going to mention how people thought the second Death Star was stupid. And I was like, that never even occurred to me.
In your generation?
No, like, well, people before me, I guess. The people that did, because there's, like, people that don't like the Ewoks either. People. Yeah,
there are, but that only came after. I'm trying to tell you, when that movie came out, there was none of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you another thing. None of us knew that the second Death Star was bigger than the first one, because we didn't have the put them side by side to know that was...
Oh, is that true?
Yeah.
Well, I assume that's why it took longer to build. That's why they were half done with it.
That would... knowing that now, but back when we saw that movie, when I saw that when it first came out, there's nothing in that movie that would tell you it's bigger. There's no visual cue. There's no mention of it being bigger.
Interesting.
Yeah, but...
I must have somehow overheard that then, because... Yeah, if you're saying that there's no visual cue or anything...
They show it in Force Awakens. They show it in Force Awakens. They go, this was the Death Star, this was the second, this is Starkiller Base. And you're like, oh, yeah, the little one was just...
I don't think
so. They only show the first one, though. I just saw it like yesterday, that's why. And they're just like, this is the Death Star, this is Starkiller Base. And
so they don't say which one it was. Okay, yeah. It's still, you know, it's like, I've seen a comparison of it online, and it's sized up. It's like twice the size.
Literally twice as big?
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense. Because, I mean, they're just trying to go big.
Or one time bigger. It looked to me like it's like this and this. You know, this one, there's the Death Star, and then the next one's just like up. Scaled up just about, you know, it's still... I don't know what you get out of that. The weapon, super weapon's the super weapon. What's a bigger circle going to do?
Yeah. I don't know. And apparently all the Star Destroyers at the end have the same power.
That one was another one that was tweaking my melon. I'm going, well, wait a minute. Now, wait a cotton picking minute.
Every single ship has Star Destroyer.
I guess if they...
has one of these.
And they mention Star Destroyer.
I'll tell you what, though.
They say Star Destroyer.
But last Jedi had that...
They're old ISDs for sure.
Yeah.
Last Jedi had like that miniaturized version of it, so I guess...
I gotta tell you, just geeking out, we're all artists here, so we should be able to appreciate this, that the planet, when they do blow up that planet, that's what all of the planets blown up should have looked like. I mean, I love the way it's going in, and you see part of the mantle crack, and then a big chunk, and then another part goes, and then it just all goes. But
it's got that
scale. Yeah, the scale of it is like, whoa.
Are you talking about
blowing up? In this movie when they blow up the planet to make an example of them, I felt of all the 3D guys did there. Got to give them props. That was beautiful work.
Oh,
because they almost
Kajimi, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, when they blew up Kajimi.
Okay.
Yeah,
it almost looked prop-like, didn't it? Like in the way that it fell apart, it almost looked like an old school prop.
Somebody put some work into that, and they should get some recognition. It was
remember seeing some stuff on Solo where they were like, this was actually a miniature, but like nobody gave a shit. So it's gone to this point where like CG is just so good that like we're kind of tricked into like not being able to believe what is CG and what is not, you know? Because like there's a lot of scenes in like Avengers where Cap's shield is just completely CG, but like nobody knows because it's like why would you question like the realisticness of that object or something, you know? Like,
well, because objects are easy to do. Mm-hmm. It's when you go in to put people. That's why I think that's why they went with the decision to not do CG layout, and they just reused shit from. I've
seen online where somebody took that same scene from the end of Rogue One, and put it up against someone that they took the exact same scene and they used deepfakes technology on it.
Oh yeah, the Corridor Crew.
And they put it side by side at the end there, and I'm like, geez, guys, why didn't you just do that? I mean, it does look better.
I know. I don't know, like
enough. And if you can see the difference, it's better.
Was she still alive at that point?
Yeah.
but she wasn't like 20.
No. I mean, I'm just saying. Like, because like it would have been straight up like disrespectful if it would.
Okay. So I said this like I was recently on another podcast called In Out Delete, and I mentioned this as part of a problem with the way they do these things. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to go too much off a tangent, but I'll say this: every time they do a de-aging on somebody, the only giveaway is always when they try and do actiony things that a 20-year-old could do. But it's being played by somebody who's like 50 years old.
Yeah, like
because
in the
Irishman. Because it's not better or worse. It's just a different movement. Mm-hmm. The way you move when you're 20 and the way you move when you're 50 is very different. So when you try to combine the two, it becomes this weird.
Just got to make sure it's a movie where they're not trying to do things too like the Irish like the Irishman.
Okay, so so at the end of Rogue One. Leia's just standing there. She just turns around and says, "It's Hope," right? Mm-hmm. Easily could have been Leia, and they de-aged her if they put her in the same kind of outfit, shrunk her waist, blah, blah, blah. It could have been her, right? Or, honestly, I think Kevin's onto something where should you just pick somebody who had her same body type, somewhat the same face, and then just kind of tweak that.
Her daughter's in the trilogy.
Well, the
what?
Her daughter's in this trilogy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she's actually at the end, and somebody pointed out that she's dressed just like she is in Jedi. With
really?
like the camo smock thing.
Oh, that's her?
Yeah, and she has like her hair.
Oh, yeah, wow. I didn't know that.
She's like a big character. But I guess she doesn't look enough like
she's got a lot of lines.
She's got a couple of lines. She was the one telling people the news,
actually.
Right?
I'm just kidding.
I'd be funny.
Oh my god. Okay, well let's get back to it because I think we're going too much off tangents. Yeah. Right now we're away. They find the dagger, right?
Yeah, they find it in the sinking fields.
Okay.
And you see Rey force heal for the first time, which I was wondering, like, I wonder if they put out the Mandalorian before.
I was about to mention that. Just
so people were okay with the concept of
force healing.
Yeah, because there's a lot of shit in the video games that I'm just like, cool, that works. This is Star Wars. I don't care.
It's Star Wars.
But then when you see it in real life in the movies, you're just kind of like, wow, that's kind of funky. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because if you think about it, like Vader had. Like at the end of Jedi, couldn't Luke have been like, "I'm gonna fucking heal you, son"?
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
Kevin's showing
Lieutenant Connix.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. There she is.
That's her. Sorry. Okay, so like force jumping in KOTOR.
Yeah.
It looks whatever in that game.
It looks jank.
But if you were to see it, in like the Star Wars movies, you might be like, okay, cool, whatever. Like.
Well, we already saw force running, and we did see force jumping because that was in the prequels, right?
And it looked dumb. Like the force running, especially, looked so stupid, in my opinion. Yeah, it was like.
It's almost like they were teleporting down the hallways.
Yeah,
it's just a huge jump, but they're just moving so fast, visually perceptibly to the where you're standing where the robots are. That's what it would feel like.
Yeah.
But there's another thing in Star Wars Rebels. That Ezra has this sort of ability to not straight up Dr. Doolittle, but he can like mind meld with animals and kind of control them a little bit with the Force.
Okay. That's a spot.
So exactly like Dr.
Yeah, but it's with animals more. That's like so. I guess some Force wielders kind of have tendencies to certain powers they're better at than. I guess they can all do it. I mean, if you think Anakin kind of does it to that rhino thing, he kind of calms it and gets on it. It's like a Crocodile Dundee thing, where he gets.
You can Jedi mind trick animals, right? That's not out of the realm of possibility.
Well, I mean, you know what? With all these movies, it's always been like new introduction to the Force. Mm-hmm. As you know, they went so far as to say, "Fucking, Palpatine can impregnate a woman."
Yeah.
With the Force. I think you've thrown everything else out the window. You can
create at that point,
life.
Yeah, if you can knock somebody up with the Force, you should be able to heal them.
Just so you know, it's non-canon, but yeah, I know what you're
Excuse me, that is canon.
It's non-canon.
It is canon.
I heard it's non-canon now.
That's not true. I've seen it in a comic book.
Really? Because she says in the movie, well, okay.
The ability to create life.
She says, did he do it? I have to look that up. Good call.
But I've seen it in a comic book too.
I literally saw talking about the midichlorian manipulations. Yeah.
I think it's. I'm with Ernie. It's pretty well out there. Everybody's under the belief, or at least I haven't heard anything to the contrary that wasn't Palpatine behind that. But I have to look that up. I'll bet you can look that up with Star Wars.
Because not to be too sacrilegious, but with the Force, anything is possible.
Apparently,
you know what
I mean that's why I'm okay with whatever the fuck they do with the Force, because it's like the Force to the Jedi is always supposed to be more like this religious thing.
Yeah, of course
where it's just like this belief in faith and whatever. Not. So that's where the prequels kind of fail when it's like they try to scientifically explain shit like this. It's like you guys are
trying to
butting
explain
heads on what the Force is now.
Nobody has gone back to midichlorians in any of the stuff.
Not even Lucas.
Yeah, nobody has gone back. That was so hated, Yeah.
Speaking of things I hated, we're at the scene where they're trying to find this dagger.
They find it, yeah.
What was the fucking point of the dagger?
Well, hold on. Before that, I just wanted to mention, did anybody else think that Finn and Poe were gay throughout the film?
Oh, they did a lot of homework here where they were like, they got a case of the not gays, so let's make sure that they understand, everybody understands.
They wanted, the community out there, obviously, there's a lot of people that want to see themselves represented in every way, so that's something that the community has wanted, so they were trying to apply it wherever they could, and we did get that kiss at the end,
right?
The two women, so that should hopefully, I'm sure Disney was thinking that'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Because
see, that's what I mean. They had to do that. Why didn't they just leave it?
In other sci-fi, it's well documented, well taken care of. Star Trek has addressed it many a times, so they're well represented. And I think that community wants to feel represented and shown, so they got it. They were just trying to figure out where they could apply it, and they went, those two.
At the end of the movie, they were like, those two could make out.
Well,
I
think it was something started coming up in TFA that people were saying, oh, it could be them. They could be, that's why he's not into, But he, I'm going, why is he asking Rey if she's got a boyfriend back on Jakku? You want to get with the boyfriend, or it sounds to me like you're after Rey.
Boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
So you got a boyfriend, cute boyfriend, and I'm kind of like, whoa, what are you? Okay.
But they did their homework. They did the whole "I'm not gay" kind of thing. They drew the line in the sand.
The only reason I thought that too was because Finn was acting like kind of weird in this movie, where like
he gave a little sass. Is that what you're talking about?
There's a point where Poe comes off the Falcon and he says like, somebody says like, "Oh, is he upset?" And then Finn goes, "Always," and I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
And then later on in the film, he's like hot wiring the speeder thing.
Mm-hmm. How do you know how to do that?
Yeah, and he's like, how do you know how to do that? And I'm like, are you his wife? Like, they're just like these weird little moments. And
that's what you took from that?
I don't know.
Wow, man. I totally didn't go there.
That was just, to me, in my head, I was just like, that's just, I don't know, that's just kind of weird. I don't know why they would do that. But
I guess that's why Disney did the whole thing. And then I saw this weird moment where this guy was kind of, it's in the background of one of the scenes, but there's this huge slug monster thing in the back, and this guy's hugging it. And I was like, is he gonna kiss that thing? Is that what we're gonna see next?
Slug love.
The end of this movie was a lot like the end of Billy Madison, where people just start making out with each other.
So you know what? It's a celebration. It's fun.
So you remember when Chris Farley hugs the penguin? You could easily splice in Chris Farley and the Penguin into this movie at the end when they're all hugging.
That was excessive celebration.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so do they?
So the dagger, right?
Do they need the dagger?
I think honestly, this is one of the parts that did kind of bother me, because it's like they had the dagger.
Yeah.
They did this whole roundabout thing, so that's 3CPO. C3PO had something to do.
What's in that coffee?
Gin. Qui-Gon gin.
Nice.
They needed something for C3PO to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was his inclusion in the thing, because like he should be able to read it. There should be no protocol to not read it. There should be a bypass. There should be a thing. Blah blah blah. Supposedly, it was Master Luke who put that on him. It was like, you can't read shit like that for people.
Yeah, my friends and I talked about that as like, all right, so after the Battle of Endor, someone created a Sith relic to show you which piece of the Death Star ended up on this moon in the Endor system. And if you stand in the right place, this dagger will show you. It's like, so after the Empire is gone, some other Sith person made a Sith relic.
It's Palpatine. He did it all.
But why would you want to show somebody where that was?
So that Kylo could find him later.
Yeah, it was weird. It's plot device theater. You go, okay. You just gotta shrug it off.
I did when I watched the movie.
You
I
gotta
was
shrug
like,
it off and know that Sith relics are a thing. I went one deeper and was like, why after the Battle of Endor? And who? It would be some sort of a acolyte from beyond, or
well, you were saying contingency plans, right?
A lot of people compared it to the Goonies.
What contingency?
Right?
Yeah.
They had to wait till the thing crashed on this planet and settled, and somebody's sitting there going, so this is, if you're standing on this beach looking out, it's that, there's the tower, it's fallen over.
And then make a dagger.
And now, where can we hide this?
Well, okay, so a lot of people compared it to the Goonies, right?
Right.
Are you telling me that if that kid wasn't standing somewhere else, he wouldn't be able to do that? Is the Goonies thing not just as stupid as
she was
dad?
standing in the exact right spot, too.
Yeah.
Because if you were like this or that way, you wouldn't be able to. They should have had her walk along, spend at least 90 seconds or of screen time where they're trying to figure it out. I think it's this and da-da-da, instead of her just going...
No, Forrest told her where to be. That's what it was.
I mean, that's my explanation, because if we're going to say, all right, the Force...
The Force.
That was definitely...
guided her to that
That
location.
was definitely something that I was just kind of like... Anthony Daniels wanted more screen time.
That was just one of those things,
He wanted his big moment in the film. He wanted C-3PO's last hoorah.
Yeah, and they had that line. It was like, taking one last look. So.
Yeah.
That's like, okay.
All
right, Anthony Daniels.
So they go to Kajimi with the dagger. They're going to wipe his memory. They do a lot of stuff with Poe that I actually like, because up until this film, I haven't really liked Poe. I've always thought he was kind of dumb. I don't know what it is about him, but I've always thought, you never get to see his struggle, Right. So to me, he always comes off as this guy that's kind of like Harrison Fordy, kind of cocky, but I feel like he doesn't deserve it, because I personally didn't see him struggle to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Like if they had brought in that spice shit beforehand, like in Last Jedi, if they had just kind of revealed where he was from, and that's why they would question his, alliance.
Yeah.
That would have made a stronger case as to why she didn't trust him with the information of what they were going to try and do.
Yeah.
Because in The Force Awakens, my big problem with that movie was that blue-haired lady was like, do your job. Do your job. And I was like, isn't that why we're fighting? So that we can have freedoms and not just fall in line and follow orders and shit like that? But that's all she keeps telling Poe to do. And so he's just like, hey. Huh? Yeah. So why didn't she just tell him the plan?
It was purple hair, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, purple hair lady.
Why
didn't she just tell him the plan? He was high enough in the ranks, I think, that he would have benefited from that information. But for not telling him, this whole other fucking thing happened that almost fucked up the plan.
Yeah, that's
and it seems really. But if you had mentioned, hey, Poe used to be a spice runner, he's like, he betrayed blah 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 blah. Maybe let's not tell him, because I don't fully trust him.
But we did something.
That's true. Yeah. Because even Han in the first trilogy, you don't really know much about him, other than he was basically like a criminal.
Pirate.
Yeah.
But see, his intent is well known, that he needs money, and he needs it bad. So he's desperate, which calls into question his loyalties. Is he going to just take his money and run, kind of thing?
Yeah, that's something.
That's why you like Harrison Ford.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no duality with Poe Dameron. It was just kind of from the first movie. It's just oh, he's this great guy. He's just fucking great guy, and I'm like, okay, cool, I guess. I don't really know anything about this guy or what he struggled to do to get to this point,
Right.
And it's and Harrison Ford too in the first one. It's when he comes back. It's oh, you wouldn't expect that of him. It's this student that always gets Fs, he finally got an A. It's more of a big deal.
Right, of course.
Than somebody who's just constantly getting, good grades or something.
But in this one, you got to know him, so now you like him.
Yeah, I liked him a lot more, especially since he got to interact with the rest of the crew more and stuff. Also that they had a droid the whole time, because I don't know why, but Dio and BB-8 interacting to me. Yeah, it was great. I was I love cute little droids. They need to have more of these.
Yeah, but you know what's great? They didn't overuse it.
Yeah.
I thought they overused BB-8 in the first one, just a little too much.
I love BB-8.
I know a lot of people do, but it's like frosting, man. You can't just have the entire cake made out of it. You just got to put it on top. That makes a great cake.
We're getting a little BB hate from her.
Yeah. I don't hate him. I just thought he had a little too much camera time.
Apparently, Dio was voiced by J.J. Abrams too.
Oh, really?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
But I did like that they kept that droid to a minimum. Honestly.
But he was also. It actually made a lot of sense that he was in the movie. I was wondering how.
No, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were gonna like stuff him into the movie, other than just like merchandise, like whatever.
Yeah, new droid, new merchandise.
But they found a good reason to put him in there.
I bought the pop.
Yeah. Did we go over that? Okay, so he's on this ship that they find.
Right.
That was on that planet Pasana, which apparently was the ship that left Rey behind.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we find out that was the guy that was hired to bring her to the Emperor and ends up shanking the parents.
Yeah.
With that
By the way,
dagger.
that's the worst line in the movie. We sold you into slavery to save you. I was like, really? That's how you did it? No.
Was the whole thing not that Palpatine saw that he would be like her undoing? That's why he threw her away or whatever.
Well, according to how Kevin is saying that the Emperor works, he can see multiple versions of his demise or his success or whatever. So,
right.
If I were to guess, I would say that was one of the possibilities. So
it's a contingency, but depending on what unfolds is then which visions he starts going with, and then he starts getting new visions. So, okay, it went this way, so now these visions are the ones I'm getting now. So the thing I was going to do over here with that person is now changed because it went this way, but
this is starting to sound like Star Trek. You understand that, right?
I know
it is Abrams. He did the new
one.
Yeah,
he's not wrong.
Well, I'm talking about the contingencies. I'm talking about the contingencies. It's like
but I'm saying so there's one of the. I'm gonna skip over just for a second because I think this lends to what I'm trying to say is like one of the last few episodes in the Star Trek. I think it was Next Generation. They start telling you that all of space is filled with the different possibilities of what you have. Every decision you make splits off into another timeline. So there's infinite versions of you, kind of shit like that. This is starting to get like that because now it's like he is either seeing all the different endings all at once and then just kind of maneuvering through them, kind of like a really weird Doctor Strange seeing through the time.
Yeah, I agree. When I discovered that in the books, it shaded the movies differently. Especially when he's telling Vader, go to the far side of the Endor moon, wait, he will come to you, and I'm going, how many versions of that did he see? What did he see? It's like you only know, only other insight you get to that is in the novels I was telling you about, where he's got this other guy, Gallius Rax, that is basically driving another one of his scenarios. But even that guy doesn't know everything. There's another and another. It's just like...
Right.
Crazy.
This is where it gets kind of confusing. So it's like, that's why when you say things like, did he know that he was going to get betrayed?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes and no. I mean, it was a possibility, but...
Well, when you put it like that, it kind of makes it sound like, isn't that the story of Oedipus? That, his father, sent him out somewhere because he was going to come back and kill him?
That's what he had seen in the beginning.
I thought Oedipus, didn't he the one that
kills his father and marries
his mom. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't know it's his mom.
Yeah, but he sends him away initially, right? Because
he sees a vision
of him
given to somebody. Him. Somebody gives him a vision that says your son will return or will kill you one day and take your throne and your wife.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I should send him out then. And he's like, well, in doing that completes the prophecy, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, if you describe it like that to me, then I'm like, well...
It just started to sound like that.
It's even better then.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me because he took a lot of the stuff from mythology and old storytelling. So it's influenced by a ton of stuff. The original.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Zori Bliss? Zori Bliss makes her theatrical debut in this.
Cool.
I liked her.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out there and put that on. I liked her character. I like the way they introduce her. Very hard nosed kind of thing. Very I'm trying to be you left me in wreckage, but I don't need you.
Right.
I'm gonna make my own way. Blah blah blah. I just wish maybe she had been introduced earlier, because I think I have the same sentiment as Steve does, where I'm like, why are they introducing people now? Like, we have so many things to get through here, and there's so many problems that have arisen since we started filming this. Like, Leia dies.
Right.
We've changed directors. We've changed direction. It's like, and now you're adding more characters. It's like, this is a lot of screen time.
Yeah, and well, actually, I was gonna say that I did like her. I feel like she kind of like helped flush out his character more.
Yeah.
Like, so I was like, I was like, oh, that's cool that just that he has someone that from his past, like here in this movie.
Yeah, I get why she was in there. It wasn't frivolous because it does show us another side to Poe.
Right.
So that was her reason for being there, is that she answers that thing that Steve likes.
I kind of wish she would have taken her helmet off, though. It was kind of weird that he was
just her eyes.
Yeah, I was like, can I see your face? And it's like
Felicity?
Just her yeah. It's just kind of weird.
And then she said, "This is the way."
Yeah. Right.
But she's the one that gives him that medallion that lets him get
Captain's
onto
medallion.
Yeah, lets him get on Kylo's ship. So they're on the ship. You find out that Hux is the traitor or whatever, the spy.
That is so.
How do you feel about that? Because
stupid.
I thought
initially, but initially you go, that's weird, and then you find out the reason why. I mean, they give it a good reason why.
Of course, they give it a good reason why. It just feels a little
initially,
like.
And then you're like, oh, he doesn't care. He's like all about fuck Kylo. I love that. That he's such a little.
I thought it makes sense in the story.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm just saying
his father is the one that was. So Empire started stealing children during the time of Return of the Jedi, and was part of that was one of the contingency, and it was his father that left Jakku on the final ship out of the system. That basically what they're doing in those books is there's this thing called the observatory, and they're collecting children, they're gathering them all together, and they're using this observatory to chart the unknown regions. And they take around all these children, they train them. So what you see is as the First Order are these kids all grown up, and one of them is Hux. So Hux's father is the one that was one of the high Imperials that was in charge of that project, and Hux is a product of that training.
That's why he was kids. So adamant.
And that's why he was so high ranked too, because his dad was one of the main guys that were
because in the first one they're just like, why don't we use clones, and he's just like, my trained stolen children or whatever better for this reason.
My stolen children much better.
Young ones.
I thought that was very interesting, and again, read the book, man. Aftermath series, guys, I can't say enough about that book trilogy.
Sounds like it fills in all the gaps.
It shows everything all the way up to, I mean, to have the Battle of Jakku described. Now it's in canon. It's in these novels. How did all those Star Destroyers end up in that field? What Rey's going through them all is a pretty gnarly battle. But there's 3 books leading up to that. It's pretty epic.
That's cool.
So
so
where are we at now?
They're on the plane. Yeah, and then
we're getting to Babu.
They're on the commander ship thing.
Oh, we skipped Babu Frick. Come on.
We could talk about Babu.
Oh, it's okay. We'll keep going. Babu's cool. We all love Babu.
Oh boy.
Rey rejects Kylo's offer
again.
Yeah.
He said that was the last time.
And he reveals to everyone in the audience that she's part Palpatine.
Right.
Which is kind of weird.
But he had a retcon. Remember, he said, "I didn't lie to you before."
Yeah. No matter what. Explain
that shit to us, Kevin. How did he? From a certain point of view, this shit.
Yeah, because I was thinking.
You just answered it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He didn't really I could see how it's a retcon because J.J. Abrams is just doing what he wants.
Yeah, of course.
But as far as the story goes, I feel like everyone left Last Jedi thinking that Kylo could have lied or he didn't tell the whole truth.
I remember thinking that.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that he knows more than he's saying.
Okay, but how come? Okay, but she went into the tunnel and she did the thing, and the thing revealed to her that she was no one.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's what the whole point of her going into the cave was to find out who her parents were and blah, blah, blah.
And it just was a reflection of 1,000 hers.
Right.
That's how you interpreted all those rays?
No, but when she comes out of it and she goes and faces Kylo in The Last Jedi, she tells him. He doesn't tell her.
Oh, okay.
You know? He's like, what did the cave tell you? She's like, that my parents were new. He's like, yeah, exactly, bitch.
Okay, nice.
And he starts up with the lightsaber. But then Kylo's like, I didn't lie to you. Mm-hmm. But he did.
So Ben did the same thing in the swamp.
From a certain fucking point.
Okay, well, anyway. Fast forward, they get to this new moon of Endor. Not the one from Jedi, but a different one.
Not Endor itself, but one of the moons in the system.
Right, okay. So now we can use the dagger and line it up with the Death Star and look at where the Horcrux or the Wayfinder or whatever it is, yeah? They introduced, what's her name, Jaina?
Yeah.
Jana? I don't really feel like they needed her in the movie at all, but...
I did think it was interesting, like Alex was saying from the Star Wars Explained, and that he would hoped that Finn wasn't the only person that...
If I could look at it objectively, I'm like, that better not be Lando's kid, right? And apparently,
they sure were heading there, weren't they?
Yeah, and apparently it is. Apparently there's a book that says that it is, and I was like, that is really dumb. To me, I just think it just...
I haven't read the book, but I know that there was something in canon that he did have a kid. This is the first time I've seen it addressed anything outside of books or comic books.
I just felt like, why? Okay, whatever, move on.
They all gotta tie it back.
It just felt a little...
They left it out of the movie in terms of they didn't say it necessarily. Mm-hmm. There's just a hint of it.
If they were gonna have him make family, why wouldn't it just be like, hey Finn, do you know where you came from? No. Let's find out. Why couldn't it be him and Finn?
Let's find out.
Yeah. Let's make a spinoff. Anyway, so Rey has this weird vision in the Death Star
of Evil Rey.
Of Evil Rey,
which I thought was.
What do you guys think of that?
It was dumb. It was dumb. It was it was one of those things where they try to tie it back to the Return of the Jedi thing, where Luke sees an evil version of himself
in Empire.
Oh, it's in Empire, right? Yeah. Well, they just try to tie it back to something like that. I mean, it's this movie, and I'll say this because I don't want to miss this opportunity later on. Is a lot of this movie has these weird problems where it's it starts to set up this great sacrifice, and then takes the whole part of it away.
Okay.
It's they did that with C-3PO, like you just said, where they was we're gonna blank his mind, never again, and then later on they're but not for reals.
He's got a backup.
Right, and they did it with Chewie. It's one thing we skipped over right now is where she's did I just murdered Chewie with my lightning hands? And then they're oh nah, not for reals. And it's please stop doing that. Because I'm not going to believe it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They're doing the whole cry wolf thing.
I would have been okay with C-3PO being a blank slate. Mm-hmm. I would have been completely okay with that. I was telling Kevin that in Revenge of the Sith, they blank his memory at the end of that movie because it's convenient to the plot.
Sure.
That in the new movies he remembers none of the original trilogy.
Right. Because they had to recon.
So if, God forbid, they make another trilogy, they could just have him
more C-3PO.
Blank slate. Yeah, again.
Good God.
Well, whatever. Anyway, I thought Dark Way was kind of dumb. I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, especially because she had a nunchuck.
But I also thought that it was kind of misleading for them to put that in the trailer.
That's exactly what I did.
That's why they have trailers to make you think, oh my God.
So knowing that, it's kind of so they just literally did that for the trailer?
Yes.
It just...
But there was stuff in Rogue One that didn't even make it in the movie in the trailer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But also, man, think about in Empire when you see Luke's head in a Darth Vader helmet. I haven't seen the trailer in a long time, but if they had shown that in the trailer, I would have been what the fuck is that? It would have.
Oh yeah, too. Definitely, yeah.
So I mean, it's all part of that same shtick. It does, though, lead into the fight. Mm-hmm. The fight's great. I love the fight because it also sets up, for the finale.
I do like the fight because it's in water, which is
Yeah.
it just like mirrors the lava.
Oh, I'm talking about
lava
the first fight where they're fighting on. She's down on the planet, or she's in his base. Because remember, she gets into his ship with that little coin, and then he's down on the planet, and they fight. But every time they hit something, they start pulling it into their.
It falls into their.
reality.
Yeah.
So start doing that, and then they smash the helmet, which is another one of those, fucking fuck the past kind of thing, but not really because we're still following it.
They just smash the stand that it's on.
Yeah, but then that's she's rescuing Chewie and all that kind of shit.
Yeah,
I did like that fight because it does the job of showing you this great thing, but also giving you some. They got to do some homework. They got to do the thing where they talk. Well, I didn't lie to you, but you're Palpatine.
Right.
I heard this. Well, I'll get to it later. But anyway, so they're fighting on the water, which I did like. I did think that was a good scene. A lot of people thought like they just didn't like it for some reason. Which I was.
This is later on the what was the ship? It was a.
On the Star Destroyer?
Yeah, on the Star Destroyer. This is later on when they use the dagger and they find the thing and then they're fighting there. That's what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the water. We're at the water.
Well, he wants to do the battle on the.
That's where we're at. We're after Dark Ray. They're fighting on the water.
Battle here.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking. I was talking about the one where they fight and they're not together.
I know. I'm
okay,
he
went forward. We're going forward.
Yeah. Good scene. And then, you see Kevin pointed out that, like, when she heals him, after she stabs him, that his scar goes away. I didn't even notice that.
I thought it was... honestly, when I saw it, I saw the tear. Which, by the way, what did you guys think of that scene? Because, like, Leia has to reach out to him in the same way that Luke did.
Yeah.
Which takes all of her power to do it.
Yeah.
Which distracts him enough for her to do what she needs to do. And more symbolically, even with his own saber, not hers, which is already ignited, which I thought was another interesting moment. Like, I'm killing Kylo Ren, kind of thing. That's the only thing that can kill him, right? Not with a good saber, but killed him with his dark saber.
And the water with the whole, like, how they use
cleansing.
Water. When they use water in film as like a baptism kind of thing. Yeah.
So that's the moment that Kylo died.
When she's healing him, the camera is from where Steve is.
Okay.
So that right side of his face, he doesn't. And not until he finally looks at her and finally looks up, you see the last bits of the scar go away up here. And it's done very smoothly. Again, hats off to the CG guys. Brilliant work on this. I think they go.
But I did like that scene because, again, Stevens is talking about the metaphor of water. In the hero's journey, you always do the water as a transitionary kind of membrane. They pass through that and they come out the other side somewhere else. So it's like the death of Kylo and the rise of Ben Skywalker.
Yeah, I think Kylo Ren is the best part of the entire trilogy.
I'm sorry, Ben Skywalker. Ben Solo. I guess
he's always
Solo.
There's a lot of subtleties. Adam Driver is truly showing himself, not just in this, but Marriage Story and a lot of things he does.
Because this one they actually gave him something to do.
And but I mean, it's not acting where it's obvious, like, ouch, that hurts, or I'm elated. There's a lot of subtleties of him, realizations of telling it's in his eyes. Sure. It's like going back to watching Alice in Wonderland and her peeking through the bushes and seeing that she's seeing something and thinking. That there's something going on there. There's a performance coming through this, and you watch it happening and realize really amazing work.
Yeah, I've always really liked how it's really apparent that Kylo Ren, the entire trilogy, has had like this identity crisis, and Rey has had the same thing. Because I think especially for people that are watching this like around their 20s, you kind of have that in your life. Like, you don't really know what you're going to do, so it's just like...
I did.
Yeah, it's like it's like very easy to relate to, and the whole theme of it is that like he doesn't know if he should follow all these examples that the past has set up, and he wants to be his own self, but he doesn't really know if he should just follow Vader or like, be just something original and new. Because he even says to Rey in Last Jedi, he's just like, we can be something new. We don't have to be this fucking like Sith or Jedi thing. We can just be something new. Let's just be whatever we want to be.
And she's like, you have to be who you are.
Yeah. And then
and then that happened.
And then obviously Rey too is obviously she doesn't know anything about her past. So
Right. Until that revelation that she's Palpatine's granddaughter.
Kind of steps on it, but
granddaughter or great granddaughter, Kevin?
He's her granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
Okay. And the scene, honestly, I think I agree with your boy here on YouTube that scene with Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
When he's talking to his son, he even says it in his thing. He's like, "This isn't the Force. Like, that's not Force Ghost because Han is not."
Right.
Like, he's not Force Ghost guy.
It's a memory.
It's a memory. But he's like, but it's your memory.
Yeah.
Kind of saying like, you haven't thought about your father since, and now it's like. Ray kept telling him, I sense that you've never, like, gotten over that you killed your dad or whatever.
Right.
But they never mention it until this scene here. So it's like, until after, like, I guess he kills Kylo Ren, or she kills Kylo Ren, and then Ben is free to think, that's when Han is allowed back into his head.
Yeah, because even, I just watched The Force Awakens, like, yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's like a line for line like recreation of the first movie, where he's saying like, "Oh, I know what I like." What does he say? I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I can do it.
Right.
They say like the same exact shit,
yeah.
And Kevin also pointed out that when he says he finally calls him Dad, and Han Solo's response is like, "I know," like everyone.
Yeah, as soon as he can see the vulnerable, and he doesn't overdo that, Dad. He goes, "Dad." He goes, "I know." I was like,
everybody cried.
Wow. That's really just a good move.
And then he chucks his lightsaber.
Yeah, which I was just like, why did you do that? That is the best lightsaber.
But it's symbolic. It's all symbolic.
Yeah. So I was actually surprised they got Harrison Ford. I was like, what in the hell did they do to get him back in this movie? Like, they must have paid him so much money.
And after that debacle of at Star Wars Land, I thought he was never going to come back.
Yeah. Like, the whole reason he was in the first one, right, was because he agreed that, like, hey, you got to kill me off in this movie because I don't want to be in these fucking films.
Well, no, I think he understood that there needed to be some sort of bridge between these movies, and he was willing to be a part of it up to a point. Yeah. Because I think he understands that to have the young kids be accepted, you need the old guard to pass the torch. Yeah. At some point, right? So I think he understood that, which is why he was okay with being that. Plus, I mean, he didn't really do a lot for this one. He just kind of stood there and did his performance. And I thought that was enough to fuel the next scene where they're just all now meeting up at the what is that planet called?
That Sith temple?
The Sith temple. The Sith planet.
First, Rey goes back to the island.
Sure, and she gets all her shit.
Yeah, and she crash lands the Kylo's ship because she stole it.
She jacked him, that's right.
Yeah, and then she's just like, fuck everything, I want the most lightsaber into the fire. And then Luke catches it, and he's just like, what are you doing? What are you, Ryan Johnson? No, he can't be throwing this bad boy away. Yeah.
There it is, Exegol.
So anyway, Luke comes back.
By the way, people were complaining all day. There was like, wait, the ghost people can catch shit? I was like, sure, why not, dude? The Yoda summoned lightning in the last one. You tell me Luke can't catch something?
Pretty sure they established that when Obi-Wan Kenobi sat on a rock in Empire, but maybe...
I guess they could do whatever they want. But then he started raising the X-Wing because he's like, you have everything you need.
That was awesome, dude.
He's like just bringing that shit up.
Same music from Empire.
Say what you will about fan service, whatever. When that happened, I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I was like...
Rey even put on the helmet, dog, and she flew over there.
Like, I feel like a lot of people wanted that to happen in Last Jedi, right? Or, like, because he's like, oh, how did he get to Crate? What the fuck, right? Yeah. But when that happened in this movie, I was just like, I know it's fan service, and I don't care. That's awesome.
Just give me that fan service.
Yeah, because it's just great for him to be at that point that Yoda was... in Empire, where he's like finally like the master.
And he does exactly what Yoda does, is he picks up his X-Wing and moves it over.
Even like his little smirk too, he's just like, yeah,
that's right.
I finally did it.
I did it.
Yeah, like
Empire full circles, like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah.
So they land, which by the way, I like that scene because Rey lands and confronts the Emperor, and then she comes in the She comes in the X-Wing, and then you see the TIE fighter right next to it, landing in the same place.
after he gets there.
And
yeah,
he does
that's
it.
That's a few minutes after she's
already. Yeah, of course. But I think the symbology of having both of those lands and then coming in, I think is it's one of the reasons I like the movie. Their cinematography was like A+ in this movie.
How did Ben get there?
Huh? In a TIE Fighter.
In a TIE Fighter.
Just one that he found?
Looked to me like it was an old one because only that he either got it from the people that had a TIE Fighter because they were on the shore that were ex-stormtroopers, or he found a working one in the wreckage of the Death Star. I don't know, but
it could have been. But just because he didn't necessarily at that moment betrayed everything. So I'm sure he could have called up a TIE Fighter as well because he was still part of the army. As to everybody's knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure he could have been like, hey, send me down a fucking TIE Fighter. I gotta go. And
yeah.
Like, okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's me, Kylo. Yeah, it's still me.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I'm here. Could you... Yeah?
No, I'm not crying.
Because they didn't show, they showed how he got there in that TIE Fighter, but there wasn't anything to say that he didn't arrive with, he usually rolls with a couple people, right?
Yeah. Well, it looked to me like an older model.
Okay. Well, that's could have been the same thing, because you could tell there was a bunch of shit still working on that ship.
So he gets there with his boys, Knights of Ren.
Oh, the Knights of Ren. I love that set.
And he has to fight them because there wouldn't be any other reason for them to be in the movie other than that he has to fight them.
Although I did catch that he's shooting people with a gun, and when the Knights of Ren roll up, the gun's gone. Something happened to his gun.
Well, he knew he couldn't shoot them.
Did he? I don't know that.
He trained them
pretty sure
to be able to reflect that shit.
I'm pretty sure that
I'm going to go with that.
He's Han Solo's son, so he shoots first. Okay, so that's...
There you go.
He must have ran out of lasers.
Anyway, she passes him the lightsaber, and I was also like, that is so bad.
That's a great... That is a long-ass setup.
Yeah.
So I will give that to them in space, because that shit was dope.
Yeah, that was good.
I saw, what I was going to say earlier was someone's interpretation of that was that the first thing he grabs from her is yellow, which is like the first movie had like an abundance of yellow apparently. And the second part, he like cuts these like berries that fall on the white, which is supposed to look like the crate scene where it's like red and white and whatever. This last scene was blue because they passed him that's blue because it's like the last movie's supposed to be blue or something like that. I guess it's if you look at the font, right? Because Force Awakens has yellow. Last Jedi has red, and then this one had the blue Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah. The Rise of Skywalker.
Sure, whatever.
It's all primary colors.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting to
put on the periwinkle blue, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you really gonna do that?
No, I'm not a fan of periwinkle blue. I just want to say that right now. I've seen cars painted that color, and I just...
You're more a teal guy, I guess?
Anything other than periwinkle blue. Write in the comments below if you like periwinkle blue. I'll come find you.
So I was wondering too. Does she pass off Anakin's lightsaber?
Yeah,
it's not Leia's.
Yeah, Leia's is on her. You can see it's clearly she's got Leia's on her back here.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
All right. I would have thought like
because it's his.
It's his mom's lightsaber, right?
It's his.
But I guess it's
that's his uncle's.
Whatever. Yeah.
And he was trained by his uncle, so.
Or grandfather's.
Well, he was trained by Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good handoff. He gave
it was his to begin with, wasn't it?
It worked.
Ben was using that lightsaber when he was being trained, wasn't he?
No. In fact, that's another thing they released at Galaxy's Edge now. They have Ben Solo's saber.
Yeah, and if you look at it,
and Google that. But it's just it's a silver version of what he has right now without the cross T thing. You compare the two, you can see what modifications he made to it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
so he did take it with him.
He took his with him and modded it.
Yeah,
obviously bled the crystal.
Yeah, the exposed wires in there. Yeah, what his kyber crystal is cracked.
Blue. Yeah, it's normally blue, and then when they describe it, I think of the comic book on how you turn. There's no red kyber crystals. It's whatever color, and then you bleed it by putting all your pain and sorrow into it.
That's how,
and that turns it red.
That's how.
Does that mean it's cracked in the center? Because I've seen that.
I don't know where the crack is. I just know it's got damage. You know,
that's why his specifically has that crackle.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he had to do some fracture it to get it to split. I don't know. Weird.
But that's what the imbalance in it is, right?
It's unstable. I think I always thought that that was also a metaphor from the TFA when you saw that lightsaber and you saw that it was unstable. He was unstable.
Sure.
Just like his blade.
Which is why a lot of people have interpreted his lightsaber has to have those two extra parts because it's so unstable, it won't just shoot out from the top. It's like ventilation that it shoots out to the sides.
I don't know. It's a necessity. I could.
No.
Yeah.
Some people have interpreted it that way.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what's funny too is like a lot of people when they saw that lightsaber, they're like, "Wow, that's stupid."
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, it looks so dumb. Why does the lightsaber have a hilt, or why does it have a?
Yeah, because there's
crossguard.
There's
why does
no
it have a
reason
crossguard, right?
Crossguard, yeah.
And then
a crossguard that could flame, that could come be pushed back on you. You know.
And then there's an interview with I was gonna call him Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor talking to Conan, and he's talking about how like when they're fighting with lightsabers, they have to use like these poles that get bent after you use them for too long.
Mm-hmm.
And he was saying that sometimes when they would fight, it would slide down the whole thing and it would hit them on the knuckles.
Yeah.
And then they would get hurt. And he's just like, why don't they have these cross guards on these things? And I'm sitting there like, now why is everyone complaining now, huh?
Right.
Those things have a purpose.
Because it's space swords. The space swords will cut to that shit.
Well, again, this is going back to the samurai style swords. I think as another thing that inspired the look and design of the lightsabers. That you look at a katana. There's a hilt, but some of them have little or none.
Mm-hmm.
Depending.
Because it's supposed to be all offense, no defense.
Right.
Kind of thing. Because katana.
Also, you're supposed to be fighting in such a style that shouldn't be an issue.
Right.
You're like a master of it or something.
Well, the kendo style of fighting.
Mm-hmm. It's one strike.
Yeah, there's that's when Kenobi gets Star Wars Rebels. We get to see a perfect example of that. A single strike.
Yeah.
When Kenobi takes out Maul.
Well, it's supposed to be that or at least that's how it was done in the beginning. A samurai is supposed to hit in one strike, like all these video games that you've seen in the past, where like these katanas clash and everything. It's not supposed to be this way because when you clash two swords together, you dent each one.
Yeah.
So that's why katanas have always been presented as these very, very sharp and only one-sided. It's supposed to be only one strike, and you're supposed to only attack to kill, and that's it.
Yep.
As opposed to like a medieval sword, which was supposed to have the hilt. It's heavier. It's two-handed because you're supposed to use it for offense and for defense.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's why there's a mixture of these two now, and that's what I felt the inspiration for Kylo's sword was supposed to be.
But they even talk about it in the original trilogy that they had guys that were kendo guys that showed Tom. You can see the way they fought. It was very samurai.
Right, because like there's even a stance that I think it's either Obi-Wan or it's later on it's Luke where he puts the sword over his head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's a kendo strike. Right there, because like you put it over your head and it's supposed to be just a downward strike when it's timed perfectly, kind of thing.
Which I thought that was cool because that sports that whole elegant weapon thing that they fight in that very ceremonial style, not like a medieval knight, which we're getting up to the other thing. I really want to get into this podcast here.
Finally, after like 1 hour and a half, we'll go for it. Tell us what happens right after they pass the lightsaber.
Well, it's more like when she has. I'm getting to the point where when she has her "be with me" moment and all the voices come in.
Okay, well, just really quick, set up the whole last part for everybody, just so we all know what we're talking about.
Well, so he's drained. The Emperor has gone ahead and pulled both of them down on their knees in front of him, and he's restored himself with their energy.
Right.
And then he goes ahead and chucks Ben in a hole.
Right.
And then finally, I think what? How does she? And he knocks her over.
He knocks her over, then does the lightning.
Yeah, he's doing the lightning thing, and she's lying there, and then she starts doing the "be with me" thing like that, and then you get to hear all the voices, which, oh boy, that was, it was a big moment because I'm a huge Ahsoka Tano fan, and getting to hear as soon as I heard Ashley Eckstein's voice, I was like, got chills down my spine, just amazing moment, teared up and everything. That was so badass for me. But and you get to hear Kanan Jarrus and a few other all the ones we know, plus some non-screen Jedi, which thought was awesome. But as she's laying there, she makes a connection. When she stands up and he realizes it's not going to happen, she has to fight those guards. Now, all of the Jedi are with her. Mm-hmm. Did you notice her fighting style change?
No, really, no.
Oh, yeah. Think back to that. When she has to fight those guards, she starts doing like a Kenobi roll, and the way she's deflecting shots, if I'm wrong, check me on this.
Okay.
But her whole fighting style and all the stuff before, it's a lot of
baseball.
It's a lot of lunge. It's
a lot of baseball swings.
Kevin almost hit me in the face, by the way.
Yeah.
It's It's a lot of baseball swings, yeah.
But more medieval. It feels like they're
but
humping these things. They're just like heaving the blades at each other.
Sure.
She gets all the Jedi with her. She stands up and she starts going.
Doing all these tricks, yeah.
But not just any tricks, man. It's Kenobi style.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Anakin
clone.
and Kenobi style.
Yeah, it's very clone era. Everything she's doing, the way she takes those guards out, it was like watching the prequel sword play.
I did notice that she like would force deflect bullets, which I thought was cool because I was like, finally.
She was definitely, her whole fighting style changed, which I noticed. I've seen it 4 times now, so you can't tell by talking to me. But that, I was like, as soon as I had that moment, I'm like, I double checked. I'm like, yup, holy crap, that's badass. Super subtle way of showing that the Jedi, they were with her. She was channeling everybody. I am all Jedi. I thought that was extremely badass.
Yeah. I hadn't noticed that.
I've yet to hear anybody bring that up yet. You guys might be the first podcast with this out there.
Because I did notice that she had gained like this new energy. I thought that was just like a springing to life.
If you get a chance to watch it again, watch her fighting style.
I mean, we're definitely gonna watch it again. But that is the whole spinning of the blade for distraction kind of thing. That's definitely an Anakin and Obi-Wan style of fighting.
she was deflecting. Like there's one's up to the side of her. You know what I'm talking about, the roll thing they do.
Roll.
But she hits bolts back. She's knocking bolts back with that.
She's
I know. Doing the whole.
So it's specifically the one that I think you're referring to is his fight with Maul, where he rolls the lightsaber around his body.
I'm talking about when they're fighting the battle droids, like when they're in the mode where they're having to fight off. A whole bunch of different things.
And they like roll the lightsaber on their side, taking people out behind without looking.
Yeah, they're doing all. Yeah, she's doing her whole fighting style. It feels like something out. It's like they switched stunt coordinators, or that was their plan all along. But it was a massive setup. You got 2 whole movies with medieval style jabbing. Chucking they're just like heaving the swords at each other, and then all of a sudden, that's why it stood out to me, is because I've always, from day 1 of episode 4, I came home from that movie and I was like, I want a lightsaber. So over the years I've seen all the behind the scenes and all the making ofs and and all the stunt coordinating and all the stuff they did for the then going into the prequels, and they had little featurettes about them teaching them how to fight lightsabers and all the stuff they talk about kendo and this yada yada. It's all out there. So when you watch these movies and you see from TFA through Last Jedi, that fighting style is just barbaric. It's just like the old,
which you kind of excuse because she's learning.
Go to medieval times. That's what it feels like, And then when she stands up, so it's such a stark contrast to my eye, which is tuned to this stuff over 50 some odd years of being it. Well, technically not all 50, but being an aficionado of this and wanting that so bad and thinking that was such a cool thing, I watch it very close, maybe a little closer than other people. So it stood out to me.
That's crazy, man. I totally did not pick up on that.
I know I picked up on it right away in the first movie in The Force Awakens, going, what happened to the fighting style? I mean, even Ben is just like, it's just all rage, just smash. Yeah. He's just, and then I'm like, oh, of course, there's no one around training in the old style.
Right. And
even if she's had a year with Leia, it still didn't show up in that fight on Kylo's Star Destroyer. They were still fighting the same style until she gets switched on.
Oh yeah, so we skipped over the part where he gives Rey Leia's lightsaber.
Oh yeah,
which I was kind of like, sure, like I didn't really think like I've been saying the whole.
Oh, by the way, here's my green one too.
Yeah, like I don't know, like I just feel like because in the last scene it's like blue on blue on blue on blue. And I'm like, what?
Well, it was cool because it was blue lightsabers together as one. Which I thought was pretty cool.
I think it still would have been cool if she would have had like even like her yellow one, just.
Well, that again came after, and somehow she gets her hand on a yellow kyber crystal. I don't know. I know you can bleed one to red, but I don't know you can alter one, make one go yellow. It's
Yeah, it's one of those things, and the ignition of it is very like.
Yeah, did you see that?
Yeah,
it's a dial, or it's a.
It's almost like when you turn on a Zippo lighter, where you flick it and it like sparks. It almost felt like that because she flicks it to the side. It spins.
Yeah, it's a ring around around the top.
So it's almost like the optics of a photography lens, where it, like once you spin it, the iris opens up, and that's how her lightsaber works.
Everyone said it looked like the end of her stick.
It does.
It does.
Yeah, so
it does.
I'm
I think
guessing,
she might have combined it.
I'm guessing she used parts from that, and then perhaps she has it so it's attached on there. She'd have to wear it on her, so that she can still use it as a walking stick or a staff, and then when she needs to break out, she can bust out her saber off that quite easily. Or
I had made that. I won't say like assumption, but I bought the first Lego sets that came out, and the pieces they put on the ends of her stick are the lightsaber piece that you used. So when I first bought the Lego set, I was
spoiler.
Like, yeah, I was honestly like, hey, maybe it's a stupid assumption, but what
toys can spoil. In some of the other movies, I've gone and looked at the model kits to see what they're doing. And speaking of which, being a model builder that I am, as soon as I saw the Falcon, I'm like, round dish. What? I've like no explanation there. I know in the book here it says it's military grade. The round one is, and the other one was, I guess, a standard public one, non-military grade.
The Falcon
rectangle one.
Well, yeah, the Falcon itself is already missing parts in it to begin with.
Are you saying because they lost it in Jedi or something, or one of them?
They lost it in Jedi. So when TFA it had that rectangle one, and the next one rectangle. Now it's gone back to being a circle.
So what? They found the parts again or something?
That's what I'm talking about.
Found it again.
I would.
Maybe they'll find the clips for the inside of the ship.
This is the only people this is bothering are the model builders like myself. I'm in a lot of model builder communities, and its subject has not come up yet, but it does now mean that now they're going to be able to release another version of the Millennium Falcon model kit from.
Yeah, that's probably what they want.
I'm like, to go back to round again. All right.
But anyway, so all the ships come in and they answer the distress call that Poe put out. Apparently, the Razor one is there.
The Razor
from
one?
the Mandalorian. Is that what it's called?
Oh, the Razor Crest?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I just saw the Ghost from Star Wars Rebels, which was also in Rogue One.
Anybody see Slave One?
I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they had the fuck did I just play? Oh yeah, the Fallen Jedi, or what was the game called? The Fallen Order.
The new game?
Yeah, there's a ship
Fallen
called
Order.
the Mantis, and I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if that popped up in there somewhere
sure.
too. It's a big scene. It's
a
like
big scene. I think you'd have to freeze it.
I'd have to. Yeah, the Razor Crest would be super small on there because it's in a sea of gigantic.
It's like their end game.
Yeah.
The portal scene where all they show up. It's like essentially that.
Honestly, the emotion was there for that scene. I didn't much care for what we had touched on it earlier, where that whole scene where that new Stormtrooper chick and Finn have their moment, which felt honestly like that was supposed to be Finn and Rose's moment.
Yeah.
In the spotlight.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
It didn't bother me because a lot of that stuff was the same way that they did Return of the Jedi, where they're like, you gotta power down that shield, man. If you don't power down the shield, you can't do anything. Felt very much in the same way, right? And then when they come in, that was kind of like the Ewok moment where the Ewoks help them, defeat the Empire kind of thing, but much nicer because then you can hide little Easter eggs in the thing. It felt good because the moment that Poe felt that he's like, I'm sorry, guys, and then he's just kind of floating there listlessly, and then everybody shows up, that was the part where I really, truly liked Poe, because he was like, that's it, that's all I can give.
Yeah.
And then everybody was there to kind of, help him back out. Like, that was good.
I'm so bummed about Snap, because, again, this is from the Aftermath novels you'll see. In that, you get to see Snap from a teenager grow up and then become, he was trained by Wedge.
You talk about the guy who was like, they told him, be more positive. He's like, I'll be more positive.
Greg Gumbert or whatever.
Oh, then he dies.
Yeah,
that was a bummer for me.
Yeah, that was
again.
I didn't think he was going to die, but I was like,
care about that guy. But again, if you've done the Aftermath novels, you'll care after that. Because his mom was a Y-wing pilot at the Battle of Endor, and he so he's woven. His character goes all the way back, and it's got lineage through.
I mean, I think they gave him enough screen time for you to give a shit that he died. It's so much enough so for like fucking Wedge. Remember Wedge and Porkins and all these other people? It's like you're giving.
Did you guys see Wedge?
Yeah, he was in there.
He was running Gunner in the Falcon. I thought that was pretty cool.
So apparently, that scene is supposed to also establish that Finn is force sensitive, which we're just kind of like
they did that a couple times in the movie. I just know.
Yeah. And it seems like he's force sensitive enough in a way that, like, for example, Leia was in the beginning. So he may be trained later, may or may not, kind of thing. Yeah. I like that they kind of left that alone.
I didn't mind that either. Apparently, like according to J.J. Abrams himself, that's what he was going to tell Rey before they sunk into the sinking field.
I was wondering. Where you heard that in the interview?
Yeah, that's what they said. So now
apparently, I thought about that, and I go, well, that hit the cutting room floor. I must have shot it and just couldn't fit it in there.
Yeah, like. Or it was in one of the many possibilities that they shot, right? And but that's what he said. So I was like,
okay,
yeah, sure, whatever. I guess that makes sense. I'm sure everybody thought that he was going to say, Rey, I love you. I've always loved you. But
I think that was the implication, and that's why Poe was so interested in it, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I'm trying to figure out how Poe even heard that. He'd already gone under.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
It was muffled. He could hear it.
Remember how I was saying like I thought they were gay the whole time.
Yeah.
Poe was all upset when he heard that. He's just like, "Oh, you're gonna tell them when Poe's not around, huh?" And I was like, "What is going on here? Like, there's some kind of weird
energy.
Yeah, chemistry happening here. I don't know."
So we're basically at the end here, where you have the whole end with Rey and Kylo.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people have mixed feelings about this. For one, Rey's killed. Kylo brings her back to life.
Yeah, and then he immediately...
They kiss, and then he immediately dies, because...
I guess there's not enough energy for both of them.
Right, well, I just assumed that he was able just to transfer his life force into her to save her. That's what I interpreted it as.
He sacked himself for her, and knowing that there wasn't enough... I guess I'm going to have to assume that when the Emperor was taking the life force out of them, that maybe there wasn't enough for both of them.
Something like that.
It's so hard.
Maybe he could have jumped over to the Palpatine, sucked a little out of him, and then gave it.
Yeah, but Palpatine was gone by that point.
You mean Palpatine dust?
Yeah.
Palpatine got laser faced again. Because remember, that's how Sammy Jackson made his face all.
That was just a touch.
Right.
This was the
But this was two lightsabers at his face, and there was no Anakin to come in and fuck it up.
I had said before the podcast too. I don't know if I said it around here, but I was like, I feel like they reference the prequels a lot in this movie, like. And I feel like they hadn't done that in the first two at all. Like, they've been the opposite, like, staying away from that. Mm-hmm. But in this one, it's like, not only do you get, like, Mace Windu talking to her in the sky or whatever.
Right.
But it's like, they got, like, basically the same scene.
Yeah.
Like, her,
he laser faces her.
Yeah, like, her reflecting the lightning back at her. And you got her fighting all, like, crazy style now, like they do in the prequels. Not like you ever see in this, So I was just kind of blown away with it, like how he even says, "Do it."
Do it.
He says, "Do it."
Doesn't he say it a lot though? He says, "Do it."
Yeah, well, whatever.
Strike me down.
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. I'm glad we finally got that moment.
And you forgot one prequel thing, the crossed lightsabers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Anakin does that to kill what's his face,
right.
Dooku, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. That's another prequel thing. They kept fucking poking it, man. This is not
There's
cool.
a Dooku novel too. That's worth looking at.
See, you know what?
I'm sure that's on New York Times greatest sellers.
Well,
but it was part of that cult. Actually, it was part of
when he was a Jedi. How he fell. That's interesting. And
but not only that, they have the whole Dooku thing where he raises that one, that other Sith lady with the dual lightsabers, and she fights Anakin on that weird planet.
Ventress?
Yeah. They what is it? Gengi. I always forget how to say. Yeah, he did the little the Clone Wars thing. Mm-hmm. She comes out in that. That's Dooku's little story.
I'm glad they had that scene though. Yeah. I know Kylo Ren dies, and that was probably.
Hey, you're bummed by that.
That was the saddest part of the movie. I didn't like when Darth Vader died at the end of.
No, you didn't. I didn't understand why.
I mean, I can understand why it happens. It's kind of like, what are they supposed to get married now and have kids?
Well, that's another thing.
Force babies.
I felt like they'd never explained very well in any of the movies when somebody is on the dark side and they tell them, come back over to the light. They're like, I can't. You don't understand the power of the dark side of the Force. And they just leave it at that. Like, it's not like, if I do, I die. They don't say exactly what happens if they come back over. They just say, "Trust me, I can't come back."
Uh-huh. Well, Anakin couldn't because he killed a bunch of kids.
There's
no coming back from that.
He became a Force ghost, though.
And he did, but he said,
they
can't come back.
First he was an old Force ghost, and then he was a young Force ghost.
Yeah, but he can't come back physically. You know what I mean? Like, he can't just... He could be Force ghost because he's dead. It's fine.
We'd have to call Pablo Hidalgo up at this at Lucas story group and grill him on this.
Well, anyway,
are you guys going to Celebration? We can find these guys together.
Oh my god, that sounds malicious. Are you gonna go to the last scene?
No, I was just gonna say I'm glad that they actually got to kiss because I feel like this whole movie has been like devoid of any kind of romance whatsoever.
Sure.
It's like, say what you will about
right, because Luke and Leia were making out all the time. And
well, speaking of retcon.
It's like, say what you will about like the prequels, right? But it's like, it was obviously there was a lot of romance in it.
Sure. And technically, aren't they related too? Because if he's the one that made Anakin Skywalker the Immaculate Conception, and then he had a grandson that made Rey, aren't they somehow? They're
second cousins removed, according to that, aren't they?
Ew. Yeah. Again, what is it with Star Wars and incest, man? Yeah. What is that?
What happens in space stays in space.
I guess.
Anyway, I thought it was a good moment to end on because it's like I said, it was this kind of thing that they had kind of they beat around the bush when it comes to that stuff because even in The Force Awakens I felt like they couldn't even have Rey kiss Finn because they just didn't want to offend anybody or they didn't want to have. They just a lot of the sequel trilogy is them not going full force in one direction, and which is
Finn got a little kiss from Rose.
Yeah, and then they're like, nah, none of that shit.
And that's mostly why I like The Last Jedi because it's like even if you don't like the decisions they made, at least they went full force into them. They didn't They didn't it wasn't like The Force Awakens where it's like, oh, maybe this, maybe this, maybe you guys write some fan fiction, maybe something happens.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing. Like, at least Last Jedi had a plan, whereas, this one's kind of more just
This was more fan service.
Yeah.
I think that that's the big consensus. And I think that's personified more at the end of the movie.
Yes.
Because at the end of the movie...
So now we're at the end of the movie where the Ewoks are not the most important part.
Rey returns to fucking...
Whatever.
He returns to fucking Luke's old moisture farm. And she buries the lightsabers there. Both her and Luke's... both Leia and Luke's lightsabers are buried there.
Even though Leia never
Which is funny. There. Yeah, I was going to say that. Leia was never there.
It's true.
But she buries the lightsabers there, and then somebody comes up and asks who she is, and she says Rey. And then he's like, "Well, there's a lot of Reys around here." Yeah. He's like, "Are there? Are there a lot?" Anyway, and he says, "But what's your last name?" You see Force Ghosts, Leia and Luke.
Yeah. Right.
And they give her the nod. He's like, "He is fine, you can say." And she says, "Rey Skywalker."
Right.
And there's a couple ways people have interpreted. One is she's now part of Ben's family.
Uh-huh.
Right? Because there's a Skywalker mix in there.
Yeah.
Right? Or is that she's just being adopted by Luke?
I felt adopted personally.
Adopted?
Yeah.
I felt like that line was very heavy-handed because I was like, she might as well have said, "My name is Rey Star Wars." Mm-hmm. Because it's like, I get it. I fucking get it. Come on, relax. But overall, I can't get over how awesome that scene is at
Ray
the end
Lucas.
where she's just...
Yeah. Rey Baby Yoda.
I did love that last shot where she's standing there with the two fucking sons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's how it all started for us.
Exactly. As much as I hate to admit that that's a lot of fan service, that scene with Luke in the very beginning, when I say beginning, I mean New Hope, first movie. He's sitting there, got the John Williams happening, staring off into the distance, two sons. Same thing happening here, and that's how you close out the whole thing.
Yeah.
I can't deny it.
Even though numerically their beginning would be kind of mess.
We're not talking about Shmi Skywalker.
Right. For anybody that really knows Star Wars, I would hope that people still see New Hope as the beginning.
Of course we do.
Yeah, as
It's not chronological.
I don't think people give much credence to
although
the prequels.
I think I said this to you a while ago. I had this epiphany where I said, "No, wait a minute. Back when I was a kid, you saw 4, 5, 6. You know, there's no spoilers that Vader is Luke's father.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as he came out with the prequels, and if you're a kid, you've never seen any Star Wars, and you start at 1, then by the time you finish 3, 5 is spoiled.
Yeah, of course. Which this is really funny because this is a conversation for my generation. It's like, how are you going to introduce Star Wars to your kid? Are you going to do 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and then 7, 8, 9?
I think you never show them 1, 2, 3. Why would you do that?
You like the Phantom Edit, right? Yeah. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen
somebody tried to recut that movie.
I did hear that Topher Grace re-edited them too.
Well,
right?
basically the cut is that they combine all 3 movies into one, and I think they only show one scene from Phantom Menace. Oh, okay. and that's Qui-Gon's
because you don't really need.
And then it moves on. I'm like, oh.
Honestly, like that. The way that this movie kind of ended the entire series, I don't think there was a way to do this movie where it wasn't going to upset a lot of people.
Yeah,
because you have too much working against you.
That's why my sentiment towards the entire sequel trilogy is just all things considered, they did a pretty good job. I mean, you're obviously gonna piss people off, but it's everyone has their own idea of what they could have done, and from what I heard, that what they wanted to do was have Force Awakens be Han's story and then Luke's story be Last Jedi.
That's a problem, man.
And then it's Carrie Fisher unfortunately passed away before the third one came out, so it's now you got to do something else.
We as the fans don't get to write these, and I think that, like I said, I was telling you earlier, I think that now people have a voice and a way of expressing things that they wasn't available to them during 4, 5, and 6. And had they, I think maybe Return of the Jedi would have had a bigger backlash on Ewoks or something. I'm just putting it in today's
I get
media
what you're saying.
thing. Is that would that have been as revered? Would those movies have been as revered? I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say because you have to put them all in the same environment and see what happens.
Well, okay. So when I say, to counter that, when I say that this movie had a lot working against it, 4, 5, and 6 came out in the same way and in the same time period that other trilogies came out and were treated about the same. But those movies were made in a certain way. Like, the first Star Wars was made in a way that he was like, I'm trying to make a good movie. Because I don't have any other credits under my belt other than maybe American Graffiti, I think was the other movie he worked on. 2 was like, you made a good movie, here's some money, make that one.
Money was a bank loan.
Yeah. And then the third one was like, fuck it, let's end this shit. We're going to do this big last one. And then there was a little more, I think, corporate influence on that one. I feel like there was more.
There is no corporate influence on 4, 5, and 6 because everything he did was done privately and without corporate influence. The reason that he formed ILM, is the reason he formed Lucasfilm, it's the reason he got kicked out of the Directors Guild, is because he didn't want to be influenced by anybody or any reason. What that was Lucas is a super idea guy. I mean, you look at it, he didn't even direct the last 2. Marquardt did the last one, and Kirshner did. And it was for obvious. He had a nervous breakdown or he was something took him out of Empire, and then he was having a divorce by the time of Jedi. So he had a lot going on. But at the other hand, I've talked about this with a lot of friends. His dialogue writing isn't that great.
Well,
and you hear
honestly, it's
prequels.
because George Lucas is not a director, or is not a very good director.
Right.
Because the problem became that after 4, 5, and 6, right, he was like, fuck it, I have the money now, I can make these movies completely in a vacuum.
Yeah,
I can make whatever I want.
Yeah. Let's shoot them on digital, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of the times when you see the originals, anytime they have CG shit and they're fighting, it's fucking awesome. It's like a huge fucking video game-esque melee happening on screen. Camera goes everywhere, rolls, turns, spins, pivots, goes in and out. It's like, it's crazy. But anytime they're talking, like when they need to do
the dialogue is trash.
Yeah, exactly, because he shoots it in a way that editors know how to shoot an interview. It's like A camera, B camera, cover shot kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm not an editor. I'm not here to criticize a bunch of people for doing that. And I'm also not a director. But I know that that's a very, very simple way of doing dialogue.
Right. Well, and just the words. I mean, if you go back and watch the old interviews on New Hope, each of the actors complains about the way the words and the way it was written.
Yeah.
But
they're like robots.
Well, just no one talks like that.
Exactly.
It's like, but they made it work. You know, we were lucky that he cast Carrie and Harrison and Mark. They were able to take his dialogue and make us okay with it.
But that was when he was open to collaboration.
He was doing a lot of he was definitely, and and it's famous that they were frustrated during the carbon freezing scene, and the I love you thing wasn't working, and that this can be seen online anywhere, but they basically, that was an ad lib shot. But Harrison and Kirshner, he said, I'm just going to roll, just say something, because the dialogue that was written was not working.
No,
it was not, and you
that
can see
doesn't
it's
sound
painful
like
in the prequels when all the romance chit chat
and the sand talk.
I do kind of wish that the sequel trilogy was like written more in the way as the original ones, whereas like there's not so much like a lot of people call it like millennial humor, where they're just like weird. They don't let serious moments happen. There's always has to be some kind of like awkward like
wink.
Yeah, like it's always just like, oh, it's like something serious happens, and then like Poe is just like, oh, you talk, I talk, you talk, I talk.
Yeah.
Or like it's just like this weird kind of like breaking the silence kind of.
Very YouTube-ish.
Yeah, honestly. And like I mean, it's like whatever to me. I kind of like glaze over that stuff, but I do kind of miss the kind of like sincerity that the original trilogy had, not the prequels, the original trilogy, because like their humor seemed a little more natural.
Well, because I think it echoes what Kevin said. They had actors that were cast.
Yeah.
Who not necessarily were comedians, but they understood that you could get. The lines that they were saying weren't working, and they were collaborative, and they were like, "This works. This could be a funny moment. This could be this, but it all works towards."
They know what to do with it because they have the training.
Right.
I mean, one of the things they don't talk about with Harrison Ford, they always say, "Oh, he was a carpenter before." No, there's another part of that. Before that, right here in Laguna Beach, he was involved in the Laguna Playhouse. And the guy who was the creative director there was friends with him at that time. So he was doing theater in Laguna. He was trying to perfect his craft. He wasn't just out being a carpenter and then said, "I'm gonna act now."
Now I act.
He had been acting, and he had been perfecting his craft. He was doing the carpentry to pay the bills, man.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
So
that's a common story now.
Yeah. So. That is I grew up in that environment, at that theater. I know the kind of actors that have come through there and the kind of directors that have worked there. And if that's where he came from, it doesn't surprise me that he's got, that he has the chops that he had, and he gave us the performance over the years.
I mean, it's obviously not a coincidence that after he did this, then he went on to do Indiana Jones, and he went on to do a bunch of like crazy shit, including being the president of the United States, kicking people off his plane.
It would have been interesting to see what the actors, the original 3 actors, like if they had more input on the sequel trilogy. I think it would have been a lot more interesting, because I kind of feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but when I go back and I see those interviews with Carrie Fisher, it sounds like she loved being like a sex icon kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, so her being like a general in these new ones, I wonder if she would have been like, no, I want to be the queen. I'm not a fucking.
Well, people still refer to her as Princess Royalty. There was a few people still made that reference. They kept that in these movies.
Mm-hmm. But what I was saying earlier, and what all this is kind of coming down to, is that you had the originals that were made kind of as a labor of love for a lot of people, and they were all trying to make a great movie. There was a lot of collaboration. You go from that to making a movie completely in a vacuum with somebody who arguably shouldn't be doing writing, directing.
We're talking about prequels now.
Prequels.
Yeah.
And then you come to this, and you're like, this is almost the middle ground of both of those extremes. Where it's like, There's a lot of corporate influence because Disney is really writing into this movie. They have a lot of things that they want to check off here. They're like, you got to have this, you got to have this, you got to have this. There's a lot of merchandising going into this. And then I really believe that both J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson were trying to make a great movie because I believe that those two people grew up with Star Wars the same way we did.
Yeah, I think that everything that's being done with Star Wars now is almost like a battle of like who's the nerdiest. Right. You know? Because you feel like when Rian Johnson threw all these concepts into Last Jedi, people were like, hey, what's this? And then he has like this famous tweet where he pulls out this book and he's like, oh, you know, sending yourself to another planet via the Force is a thing that's already been established in these books or whatever, you know, and like so, or like Jon Favreau with The Mandalorian, I feel like he's almost like, yeah, I'm making reference to all these things. Remember this? Like, you know, because he is also, you know, like a Star Wars nerd. Yeah, like he. Yeah.
There's so many Easter eggs that in Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Like, there's so many things in there.
Wait, you guys want to jump into The Mandalorian now, or what?
Yeah, let's just take a really quick break, and we'll be right back with The Mandalorian.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so everyone here has finished Mandalorian, right?
Right.
Okay.
Spoilers.
Yeah, I would hope, the people listening as well have finished The Mandalorian. Ernie, why don't you open that before we started?
Sorry, guys.
There's some nice soda cracking ASMR for you guys. So, I think everyone's pretty much in agreement. Like, everyone I've talked to as well that's watched it has been like, this is the greatest thing to happen to Star Wars since, like, Empire Strikes Back. I really like it. I really like it.
I am completely in love with it.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah.
Okay. We're all in agreement. We all love it.
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, awesome. 100%. Well, again, there's a lot of fan service in there. There's
of course.
lot of little hidden things, and you're like, oh my god, that's that thing, and that's that thing.
There is, and there's also, like, I was talking to one of my friends the other day about this too, and I was like, it's kind of cool because you don't always get to see Star Wars just focus on one dude the whole time. And that's what's really great about this show is that, like, you get, like, this... You don't have to worry about, like, B-plot every episode. A lot of it is just, like, this guy, you know? Like, he's just here as, like, this lone gunslinger type character, and you just get to see him do all this stuff. Yeah, and, like, all these... Especially since it's, like, it's all, like, self-contained.
Sure.
They spend as much time as they want just letting...
As much as they can be self-contained, because... Kevin was talking about it before we got to before we started recording, and he's talked about, or I complained a lot about, you can't get away from this fucking expanded universe. But then Kevin was saying that that's why this is set where it's set. Because you're so far away from everything, right? Is that what you're saying?
The outer rim is so far out there that they don't have to get sucked into any of the stuff that from really many of the novels that are in the mid rim and inner rim. Although they did come out with a few novels recently to tie Batuu into the storyline.
Oh, really?
That's the Thrawn novel Alliances, where they talk about a mission that, and when they first found Thrawn and Anakin was still good, that he and Thrawn teamed up on a mission in Batuu, which is in the outer rim. It's right at the edge. Like, it would be like...
For those who don't know, Batuu is the...
Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, it's Galaxy's Edge. That's where you're supposed to be. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and if you look at a map of it, it's at the edge of the outer rim. It's still just... It's almost like...
The Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. It would be like going to Reno. Or we're going up, and then you cross the line and you're in one side of it. It's like it's right there on the border. Yeah. So there still could do some serious trading through there, which is why we see this planet is very, very similar to that.
Yeah,
it's
and also
in the outskirts.
I think it's Carl Weathers, his character. I forget his character's name.
Grieve.
He says something to the...
Grieve Karga.
He says something to the effect of, like, he's like, oh, Jedi used to use these kinds of powers, it was like a myth or something. So they're not really fully connected to, like, the Star Wars.
Because they won't see many Jedi out there.
Yeah.
It's all going to be kind of fairy tales to them out on the outer.
Which is really cool to me. Like, the idea of that is really cool, that they're not, like, intimately involved with anything that has to do
Well,
with...
right, because to set up this kind of timeline, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, because I know you will. The Mandalorian takes place after Return of the Jedi,
About 6 years.
but before
Force Awakens.
So you said 6 years after that,
Right.
which is why
Force Awakens would be, obviously, 6 years after Jedi, Luke still wouldn't be gray.
right.
Leia still wouldn't, they'd all be relatively, younger looking.
Right.
So it's not that
So
far.
it's another 30, 40 years.
Right. Plus, right. And what's going on at that time actually is also covered in the novels. I was telling you about the Aftermath novels, the formation of the new government and what they're having to go through in cleaning up all the mess from the Empire collapse has really got their focus on the core and mid-rim. They can't go much beyond that. They're stretched at their maximum. The rebels now have won. There's only so much they can do. And they even, in the Mandalorian, it's kind of addressed in that scene where they're on the prison ship, and why there's only one dude on that and a bunch of droids is that a good theory is that they just do not have enough people
to do
to
everything.
put out. And they're
Especially on a cargo ship that probably contains
that was a
thousands
prison
Yeah.
ship.
That
It's
was
a prison.
that was one of my favorite episodes, by the way.
Oh,
Is like they
Totally.
literally had like one hallway and a few lights, and they were like, let's
dude,
shoot
they got so much.
Yeah.
As a guy that's kind of around this stuff now, when you see a set that is used multiple times but just different angles, you're like, they saved so much money.
Yeah, they did.
Just on this little thing, and all they had to do was reverse shot, and then but they got so much mileage out of that.
They did that in The Force Awakens with that hangar, and then they turned that into the Starkiller base where Han gets that whole thing. That's the same set.
I know, but it's
that's pretty awesome.
This is such a smaller story that when I see things like that, I was like, ooh.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it. This feels as epic as any feature film.
Because of the emotions involved, but not because the story's actually big.
Too.
Oh,
the visuals are as big as a major motion picture.
I heard that each one of these episodes is in the millions. Like each one of
really?
these cost millions.
That's
Okay, is that? But what in today's market is that a lot or a little?
Well, when you're talking about for streaming as opposed to a nationwide release, yeah, I think it does, because this you're talking about like a Seinfeld episode in its last season cost that much, right?
That
because
was salaries,
right, but still cost that much,
right?
Pedro is still worth a lot of money.
I'm sure they're all getting
Carl Weathers.
They're all getting good paydays. Everybody's getting a good payday.
You got some good money in there.
So when you say that in a million, you're considering all salaries too, right?
Whatever it costs to put the episode on.
So
yeah.
with all those salaries and visuals, I'd say they're getting away cheap.
You think so? Well, hey, listen. When I first saw it, like the first thing I texted Steve, I was like, "Dude, this looks fucking expensive."
Well,
because this shit looks
looks expensive, right? But if you're so how much is the salary? So let's say to be fair, they're making $500,000 each.
Yeah.
No.
Did they have?
No.
Did they have to pay the 501st soldiers that were in that episode?
No, but how rad was that? I was so happy for those guys. I was so happy for
that.
Those
Is some
guys.
cheap. I guarantee you they did it for fucking scale. I guarantee it.
Probably.
Yeah, they were just so happy to be in the Star Wars production.
I was briefly in the 501st back in 96, 97 when I got my Vader costume. That's a great group. I highly recommend. If you're thinking about joining, totally do it. They're awesome.
Yeah. Do a lot of charity work, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they do a lot of charity work, but it's just a great community to begin with, and it is a cool feeling to roll into Comic-Con flying with like 12 stormtroopers on either side of you.
It was cool too, because I read that so it was Jon Favreau, and what's the name of the other guy? I think it's something Filoni. The other
Dave Filoni.
Yeah. They were saying it was great because these dudes already knew standard stormtrooper protocol. He's like we didn't have to check if their suits matched up correctly because they all have this code of it all needs to look identical.
That is when you sign up for the 501st, they have the sign up thing you have to do, and it has to be at a certain level, and they have to look at it, and if it meets, then you can get in. Otherwise, they say thanks, no thanks.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah. But they also make it available. It's all easy to get. You can get, meaning that you can go to a company and get a full one made. That's a couple of grand. Or you can, they'll give you the...
I heard a lot of people build them, yeah.
They'll send you the styrene. It's vacuum formed, and you have to trim it out and assemble it. So you do it yourself. DIY is a lot cheaper, but dealing with styrene, not fun. For at least, I mean...
Do you have experience in that?
Very little with polystyrene. It scared me. I used to have a model of the Reliant that was polystyrene. I started getting into it and realized I don't know how to deal with this because it was vacuum formed. So when it passes the buck and then it bows out, then it's like how do you make a precision cut on a disc? I didn't have the tools. Now I've seen enough things now. I know you use a Dremel and there's things you can do to block that and cut it and everything like that. But it was just beyond my skill set from being
there's
a
plenty
kid
of YouTube
builder.
videos now, right?
But back when I got this was freaking long time ago, like in the early 90s, when I got that vacuum from. I thought, oh, it's just plastic. I can deal with this, and I realized, it's a whole different thing, and it behaves different than like the plastic model kits you're familiar with. It's doable now. It's totally doable. There's YouTube. I didn't have YouTube. There's a lot of things that'll show you how to use the tools and what tools to use, and they'll take you through step by step. So anybody that's thinking about it, it can be done, and it's a great group to be a part of. It really is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, at first I was almost like, is this just like a headline? Like, do they have enough people and they're just trying to make a headline?
It's got to be so much cheaper. Think about it.
Yeah, because like I said, those guys are doing that
after I read the story, I was definitely like, oh, Jon Favreau seems like a cool guy. He probably just...
I mean, also I heard, like, okay, so just to let everybody know, Jon Favreau, the reason that I think he did so well on this is because he knows when to pull back.
Yeah.
And when to give everybody what they want, right? The give the people what they want was the Baby Yoda, right? Obviously. But the pulling back was when he told Disney, do not fucking make any Baby Yoda merchandise.
Right. Make it a surprise.
Make it a surprise. Because
is that what he did?
Yeah, he did tell them. He was like, I've read this in several places. He was like, he told them, do not fucking make any... I'm sure he said it in better words than this, but he said, don't make any of the merchandise. Make it a surprise, and then this will explode. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, I did hear that was his creation. Because he apparently, like, Kevin Smith had asked him, like, directly, like, hey, who made Baby Yoda? Like, who's responsible for that? And Favreau said, like, that's me. That's all me.
That's all me, baby.
That's what he said.
See, like, the reason that I really like this story was it's small in scope because it's just a bounty hunter from, like, Creed, like the credence of this, set of warriors and everything, is a small story because it follows all these really classic westerns, like True Grit was the one that came to mind when I first saw it, because as soon as I saw that kid, I was like, oh, this is what it's going to be. It's like the hardened fucking battle-worn warrior and the fucking, like, the child who's going to somehow be tainted by all of this kind of thing. And it's exactly what it turned out to be, and it's a very simple story of this, like, I'm just trying to protect this fucking kid.
Yeah.
But everybody wants this fucking kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's a simple
He's
story.
trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But it's...
Well, they make it apparent that he had a soft spot for children specifically.
Because that was him.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to say he was a foundling.
Yeah.
He was an orphan, and so it hit him, and everything that's happened to this guy up to this point, which we hadn't seen.
Right.
Nothing could break this guy until this, he could relate to him on a level of, hey, I've been in your position.
Right.
There's something special about you. Because there's something special about me. Which, by the way, I loved how they kept showing us little snippets of his memory as a kid.
But not too much.
Not too much. And then finally, so there's the major geek moment, the reveal in this last episode when they show him being rescued by the Mandalorians. Not just any Mandalorians, guys.
Was that Jango Fett?
They were Death Watch. I was like, yeah!
So Kevin's geeky now. Me and Steven are looking at each other going, what's that?
Okay, so...
Well, because, do you know that Boba Fett and Jango Fett are not real Mandalorians?
I did not know that.
Okay.
Jango was trained by Mandalorians, but he went off and clearly went off and did his own thing. And Boba really unless there's comics or other books I haven't read, the only training he got was up to when his dad died.
Yeah.
And then in the Clone Wars, he was hunting Mace Windu. And he even posed as a youth, like they have a youth clone unit, like for tweens and teens, like we're just starting to become a man, but you're not quite there yet.
Right.
He infiltrated that organization. Perfect, right? Because he looks just like a clone, and he was trying to get to Mace Windu, and I don't want to spoil that for you guys. You ain't seen it yet. I know you ain't watched the Clone Wars.
Well, considering Mace is still alive later on.
Yeah, you didn't. Mace is the Clone Wars, but it's still a cool story. It's still a cool story to see what he does and what he does. But you're right. So yeah, Jango, from what I understand, he does have Mandalorian training. Which is why he was able to fight Kenobi.
Yeah, and use the flamethrower, and use all the different...
and all his armor looked like full Beskar. Yeah. So you can't get that by just rolling up off the street.
Right. You have to earn the armur.
Yeah, you have to earn that. That's a whole thing, which we now know.
Bring me back. What is this Death Watch thing?
Okay, so in the olden days, they were very much a very clan-oriented, very much a violent warrior type race, and there's much you can look up on this online about the genesis of the Mandalorians. But getting more into the clone era, Mandalore had become they had said, hey, we've had enough of this warring stuff. We're going to be pacifists on the planet of Mandalore, which is covered heavily in the animated Clone Wars. Well, just like any sort of society like that, you're still going to have hardcore people that are like, no, man, we got to do by the old ways. So a bunch of the warrior types went to one of the moons near Mandalore, and they went back to the old ways, and these guys were hardcore, and they wanted to bring Mandalore back to the old ways, but it was just too much for them. They didn't have enough people, but so they formed this Death Watch organization, which is heavily documented you see it in Clone Wars animated, it goes into Star Wars Rebels. There's this whole thing with the Darksaber. Again, so at the end of that, when Moff Gideon comes out of that TIE fighter with the Darksaber, I knew exactly what then again, this is in Star Wars Rebels. You see the last person that has that saber is somebody that's trying to bring back the clans of the Mandalorians, and she they talk about the Purge. That's basically what happened. Is the Empire was occupying Mandalore, and the Mandalorians decided they were going to try to go back to their old ways, and Empire wiped out most of the Mandalorians. And
which they touch upon a lot in the series, remember? Because when they start talking about him as the Mandalorian, so he has such a disdain for the Empire,
right? Which
makes sense now because
he got trained by Death Watch guys, which would definitely have.
And then to hear that they all got wiped out makes sense as to why he's so...
If you look at the Clone Wars things, there was this one thing that was happening in the Clone Wars. There were planets out there and systems that the Trade Federation was trying to say, hey man, come over with us, be on our side. And they were sending Jedi out to planets and saying, hey, no, stay with the Republic, we want to stay with us, we want to use your place as a base. So their planets were going, oh yeah, what are you going to give me? Oh yeah, what are you going to give me?
So back and forth.
Back and forth. Well, Mandalore wanted to stay neutral with her. Yeah, but Death Watch didn't like the Jedi and didn't like, they're like, no, we don't need anybody actually. We just need our planet and us. Mm-hmm. And we're going to take our planet back. And that's another thing where Obi-Wan Kenobi did have feelings for the Duchess of Mandalore. They were kind of starting to head down that road. Yeah, they touch on. You guys gotta watch Clone Wars. You guys you were missing so much.
I legitimately tried to watch it, but I couldn't get into it. Lightsabers look funny. They're like little sticks.
Which one did? Oh, okay.
The 3D one.
Okay, you're missing a lot of story. You got to skip the presentation. Actually, the animation does get better as it goes on.
Well, the animation was good when it started, when they started with the Genki stuff, and then they made it 3D.
Right.
Honestly.
Well, but even that was started out and one way and got better towards the end.
No, totally. But that's because the focus on that was very much a storytelling thing, not so much. We got to get this exposition out there. That's why it was. That's why it was great.
That's why the hair was stylized and everything like that.
Yeah. But it was.
You'll get all these stories if you finish all this connective tissue is in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, you know what? That one guy that I didn't like from Rogue One. He's in this game that I'm playing. Forrest Whitaker's character.
Oh, Saw Gerrera.
You didn't like Saw Gerrera?
We didn't, but see, we don't have the benefit of seeing all this stuff, and we saw
Whitaker personally.
Oh, that's gotta be a problem. But if you watch the Clone Wars, you can see Saw and Steela when they were fighting for the freedom of their planet, and what happened with his sister, and why he ended up the way he ended up. Wow, Forrest Whitaker hate. I've never met anybody.
I just don't think he's a good actor. I think he ruins everything that he's in.
Even Ghost Dog?
So you Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that ruined that for you?
I'll tell you
serious roles, I guess.
This is I think this is why there's so much acclaim for this, because Steve and I don't know any of this expanded universe stuff, but we still enjoyed the story so.
That's why it's
right?
awesome.
But it's also pleasing a bunch of people like Kevin that have all these the mentions in it aren't overpowering. You know what I mean? They're not bringing things in to overpower the essential story, which is just this guy and this child and this. But the one thing they did do, the what's his name? The guy who keeps saying "I've spoken." What's his name again?
Nick Nolte.
Oh,
Nick Nolte.
What's his Cree?
I forget his actual name. We know what you're talking about.
The Ugnaught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They endeared me to that character so much.
I loved him. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And again, spoiler alert to all this stuff. The fact that he gets terminated broke my fucking heart.
I know.
Yeah, I really liked him so much.
I love that character.
I was actually surprised they went through with that, because I was thinking, is this a fake out? Next episode he's gonna.
That's what I thought too.
And then they committed to it.
They were like, he's been terminated. And I was like, fuck. He's dead. And then they gave him the old fucking Star Trek. Rock burial with his helmet on the top of that shit. I was like, dude, come on.
By the way, that IG unit is one of my favorite characters.
IG-11.
See, and IG is so badass because he looks terrible. And as a droid. He looks fucking terrible.
Right.
He looks like a piece of machinery, which is one of the great things that I used to love about Star Wars. Things looked like they were a utility, not stylized.
And it also is a lot like the humor I was talking about, where it's not necessarily awkward silence, millennial stuff. It's literally he's just do you want me to self-destruct? And he's like, no, stop doing that. And he's just do you want me to activate myself? Because he's just a droid. He's just doing what he's programmed to do.
But the comedy of the situation is what's funny about that.
Yeah.
Also, I love the R2-D2 unit that comes out, and it's been heavily modified, again, as a utility, as opposed to something stylized. So it has these arms so that it can do one thing. It's been modified just to do this one thing, and I feel that that's so funny, and it's why it gets its brains blown out. Is because she's like, hey, we're fucking talking to you. But it's like you're talking to a machine that all it's going to do is go where you tell it and you blow his head off. It's like, okay, gotcha.
And the IG-11 is voiced by the Tikka Marsala guy.
It starts with W. I forget what his name is. He's the guy that directed Ragnarok, right?
Taika Waititi.
That's it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So great. But that's...
Wasn't he in also the Flight of the Condors? or
Flight of the Conchords?
Him and that other...
Well, he is, what's the name? Krog from Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, that's it.
He is the guy in there, too.
But here's the other thing I'll say about this, which is why it's so endearing. It's everything in there... Because, and by the way, I was very surprised when I first started watching The Mandalorian that it was only it's only a half-hour show. It's not a full hour.
Right.
Yeah.
So they are there is no fat on these episodes.
Last episode was 48 minutes.
Yeah, well, because it's the
season finale.
Right? Yeah. But the first episode sets it up so fucking well because he's so goddamn diabolic in the way that he does everything, right? Or not diabolic, I should say, efficient in the way that he does everything. Because when he goes to collect the first dude, and this is going back to the very first episode, very first scene where he goes to collect the dude, he's like, we can walk out or I can drag you. I kind of shit.
No, he says,
total business.
We can go there warm or we can go out cold.
Oh, there it is. That's what he says. And then he doesn't want to fight anybody, but they push his buttons, and he's like, these guys aren't going to stop, so I got to fucking murder everybody in here. The way that he does that kill in the very beginning with the fucking door, I lost my mind. I was like,
savage.
Good lord, this guy doesn't just kill. He kills like fucking Jackie Chan. He uses his whole environment to get the job done. You know what I mean?
His use of like the trademark Mandalorian stuff is really smart. There's also an episode where Carl Weathers has him like, face to face, and he's got Baby Yoda, and he uses the grappling hook to set off the crowd. I was just like, oh, that's so great.
Isn't that great?
It's like really, really practical, efficient use of what he has. It's not just like shoehorned in every once in a while.
And he's not perfect. He makes mistakes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's the aspect of like that he gets from like being a Western kind of thing. It's like you always see like the downfall of him. He's not always like this invincible character. You get to see him get messed up, and he comes back. Like when he fights the Jawas, he's trying to climb up there, and they just shock his ass when he gets up there because he's
definitely not perfect. Also, I mean, he's working against himself because again, he's not a Mandalorian born. Right? He's a foundling.
There is no
Mandalorian race.
Right, yeah.
But there are people who are born on Mandalore and trained from birth.
Right.
He was, 7, 8, something like that?
He wasn't born into a clan. Yeah,
right,
he was found. But he was trained. If you're going to get found by anybody and trained by anybody,
well, I mean,
Death Watch is the ones that you want, because those guys are hardcore.
But that's why he's working against the grain, because he probably had to do more work to prove himself, because he was, he wasn't born into this. You know what I mean? So he had time to make up for lost time. And as shown, God, I love this series so much. Shown, not told, he's the smallest Mandalorian in there. And the least experienced in his little,
Right, the underground layer.
The underground layer there. Yeah. There's ones that are twice his size. And that Mandalorian that shows up was like, holy fuck. Really?
That's what I heard.
That's fucking great. But, he's twice his size.
Yeah, because that lady messes those stormtroopers up.
Yeah.
In the last episode.
And she does it with no fucking blaster.
She's just using, hammers. Like a hammer.
Oh, my God. They didn't do it, but I wanted them to slow down that shot where she breaks his jaw with that hammer. I wanted to see it like in slow motion shatter. And I wanted to see a person underneath there. Only because they've never done that. They've never taken off the fucking stormtrooper helmet and humanized.
Other than Finn and maybe Phasma, you see her cracked. But
they've never done it so much to humanize a fucking stormtrooper.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they did it in the last episode where they had them kind of shooting the shit while they wait for...
That was great, by the way.
Wasn't it great?
I love the gag of them not being able to shoot the that thing.
And they keep shaking the gun. It's like, why isn't this working?
It's those scout troopers and they're on the speeders.
They have Baby Yoda and they're just shooting. And it's like, can't shoot the broadside of a barn, apparently. You know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love that joke. By the way, one of those guys is a comedian. One of those two guys on the
speeders. Yes, Sudeikis. Yeah.
Is Jason Sudeikis?
Yeah.
He's the one that bops Baby Yoda, right?
Yeah.
He got a bunch of shit of that on Twitter. He's like, how dare you?
That's so funny.
It was really it's really great of them to put them out every week too. It honestly felt to me like I was watching Hercules and
I
like the cameos are great.
The cameos are great.
Yeah.
Plus they used a lot of C-level talent in fucking grade A ways.
Well, that guy from Breaking Bad is what's his face.
Oh yeah, Moff Gideon is. I would call him he's Gus Fray, man.
Well, I mean, yes, but he's not a what do you call him, a movie star, or would you call him a TV star?
No, but
he's a TV star, but that show was an A+ show.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. But they also use people like Bill Burr.
Yeah, Bill Burr.
By the way, that might be my favorite episode.
Horatio Sands.
Yeah, Horatio Sands.
Yeah.
That's badass, man. They're using all these C-level actors, and then you're just like, what the fuck? They're elevating them.
How about the 3 X-Wing pilots, Dave Filoni and the other 2 directors?
Oh, is that
those are all? Yeah, those are all directors.
By the way, can you explain that to me? Because I asked that to Steven because on that same episode, he does the little tracking thing. He takes it back there, and then X-Wings show up.
Because what that was the thing they were supposed to press on the prison ship. If there was any trouble, it was going to alert the new government, and
the new government is the Resistance.
Well, they're not the Resistance. This was the New Republic.
Okay.
So that's what they form into after the war is the New Republic.
So the New Republic uses X-Wings.
You know what was great?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because that's basically it's the rebels now. That there's no empire supposedly, they form a new government. The goal was always to get back to the Republic for them because they're all made up. You look at Mon Mothma was a senator. Bail Organa was a senator. You feel in Rogue One, it's very obvious. Those are all people from the Clone Era Senate and stuff like that. They're all governors or whatever of their planets.
What else I love about that episode is how when they first meet that guy who's in like the security room, they like make fun of his helmet, and I thought that was funny because I was just like, this is like them almost like it's like not breaking the fourth wall, but it's almost like why the fuck would he be wearing this thing? Because this helmet was designed like in the 70s, back when like.
Well, it's supposed to be like that helmet isn't the standard war helmet. That's like a formal guard helmet that they wore. So like in the field helmet is more like what they wore in Jedi. That would be more like when you're on a dignitary type.
Right, but like I get the stab and I like it.
Oh, and that guy that they killed, he's a voice actor who did the Anakin in the in Clone Wars. Yeah.
Oh,
really?
That's crazy.
That's cool.
Again,
See,
you guys are missing out on everything. You gotta give it another try, and you gotta try.
Oh my gosh!
By the way, that the door gag in that scene.
Which one?
It's it's
the two. That's brilliant.
Set up so well because in the beginning of the series you see him use doors as like a lethal way of killing somebody, and this time around it's like when he slams the door on him, he picks it up and then he hits it again. And I thought that was like I was like yes, that's so funny.
Which we've seen double blast doors. I'm sorry, I have to say this. Phantom Menace.
No, we've seen double blast doors
right,
because there's always
Qui-Gon's
trying to get because they've done it. They did it at the end of the episode too.
I know, but I was doing that for
no.
Phantom.
What I'm saying is the last episode they do it again because remember they do the whole like door breach, and then she shoots him, and then they activate the blast doors. Another set of doors closes. So there's always two sets of doors. It seems to be pretty standard around the universe.
Yeah.
One thing I really like about the show too is how they show concept art at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
That's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. I can't tell if it's. It's hard to tell if that's the concept art. If they did those paintings, how dialed in they're almost bang on what was shot.
Almost.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, which is incredible. It almost feels like maybe they did them after, like some artist did them. But if that's pre-visualization, whoever.
No, I definitely. Maybe you agree with me, Steve, but I feel like that is what they were going for in each fucking scene. Like there were major scenes that Favreau was like, I want people to understand that this is a pivotal fucking scene and it needs to be painted so you guys can see exactly the feeling I want to get from this.
I think that's what it was. Because,
I hope it is.
Because
that's just genius.
There was a lot of shots where I was just like, I would watch it in the ending credits and I was like, why didn't it look this good?
Exactly.
Like I was almost like maybe they just couldn't capture that same shot on screen or something. The one that comes to mind specifically, I think, is the episode with the sniper in it. Mm-hmm. There's a scene in the ending credits where I should say, there's a scene in the episode where he passes by a bunch of stormtrooper helmets on spikes, and the previs or whatever painting that was supposed to accompany it was like him like in the him in like the background, almost at the top of the screen, and they're all kind of in the foreground,
right?
And it looked really badass, and you don't really see that in the show. It's just kind of like he walks past them,
right?
So I was almost like, maybe they just couldn't get the correct shot or whatever.
Yeah, the feeling was definitely there.
Maybe they made another editing choice.
Yeah,
it might have been that shot, but they dumped it for another.
Also, but here's the other reason I think it was a before, because the Mandalorian, when he is walking around and like doing the Jawa thing, in the concept art he's wearing this weird scarf thing that drapes over him, and in the actual thing he's not wearing it.
Yeah.
So it was like, did they do that because he wanted to have that kind of, like, old paintings of Darth Vader had his cape kind of more of a cloak instead of a cape?
Right, sure.
And he had, like, his hand come up underneath it kind of thing, and that was the concept art, and then they're like, that's not practical, we gotta put it on his back, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's the same kind of thing. They're like, we want to see the armor in production.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll give him, like, a scarf thing, he'll wear something, but we really got to see all the
even
armor because they're trying to highlight
Boba
that for
had
the
a
episode.
thing that he wore off the
Yes,
side there too.
and I think was what Favreau was going for. That imagery of like mostly armor and then rags over it is very powerful.
Also, the episodes with that one girl, forget her name, but I think she's like a UFC fighter in real life.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. She was great. She's fantastic.
Her character looks completely different in the concept art.
Yeah.
So it was like done before they cast it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also,
not to mention. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, are you gonna say Bill Burr?
Yes, Bill Burr was the other one.
Because in the concept art, it's like this buff guy with no sleeves on.
Right.
And
then Bill Burr's very like
in the
scrawny.
show he's obviously like this guy that kind of
not to mention that episode in particular, the Twi'leks in that episode, the two, unfortunately. The production art looked like a million times better than what they actually got because whoever did I know that makeup and all that kind is very adaptive, so it's like maybe her head didn't work with that helmet or whatever like that, but it looked bad.
Oh, okay.
And for the brother, they added like these two they looked almost like knees on the top of his head, and then it went back.
Sometimes they're
the concept art was like just flat all the way back, and it looked a million times better to me. You know, so that's why I think. And by the way, it's the only time I've stayed for the credits on a show.
Yeah, I do.
People need to do that more often because that shit is great. Yeah. Like a recap of what you just watched, kind of like. He's like, remember all the good shit you saw? Check your best so you can keep it with you.
I know for a fact Marvel movies have a bunch of things like that because I remember seeing a YouTube video where this guy went over all these paintings he did for Winter Soldier in previs. Like not even I wouldn't even call them storyboards because they're such they're
fleshed out,
well done paintings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're telling me I would have never seen these if I wouldn't have looked up this YouTube video that shows them off. Like it's
definitely
the credits are almost as like finished painting storyboards.
Yeah, they're great. And I don't even mind that they put that filter on top of it because they put that. You know, like when in the desert, when it rains and then it dries up, you see that kind of like polygonal cracking in it. Yeah. They put that filter over it, and that stays still while the rest of the painting moves behind it.
Right.
I know that that's a cheap trick in terms of a motion graphics thing, but it totally fucking works. Yeah. I am totally in.
Yeah. It's got great music too. I really love the
whatever the horn they're using for that shit. So distinctive.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
Well, it's like the old spaghetti western.
Yeah. But it's their own version because it's a horn now, right? Every time the title comes up or he appears on screen, they do that thing. It's like, oh, that's his little theme song. I like it.
It is great too. Like I love how the cold open always goes into like the opening like title shot or whatever. It always gets me amped up. Like,
and then you hear the little horn, and I'm like, yes,
music,
yes.
Going now back to the people that created this between Favreau and Filoni. I have been a fan of Filoni's ever since Clone Wars. He is his driving force behind that,
which is why
and driving force behind Star Wars Rebels. He's the reason that we saw a Lothcat in here on Mandalorian, and he really, Lucas trained a lot of people, but this is the guy. Him, I'd say the two guys I'd say that have the most juju from. They understood what Lucas was trying to do, but kept the horrible dialogue out of it. So it's like if you could take all of the stuff that is good that came out of Lucas and just sift out the bad, you get like a Pablo Hidalgo and a Dave Filoni.
Well, then they should redo the prequels because goddamn.
Yes, he really has proven. It's not just words coming out of his mouth.
Of course not.
He's proven that he gets it. And again, when you get into Star Wars Rebels and you see the formation of the Rebel Alliance, because we all saw New Hope, and at that point, they're together. There's the Rebel Alliance and there's an Empire.
Sure.
It didn't start out like that.
Of course.
And that's what Star Wars Rebels gives you. It actually shows you how that all, how hard the Empire was clamped down, how it all formed. They didn't even, planets were rebelling and they didn't know that there were other people out there because they shut down all the communication. So when they're just showing how they all find each other and
that's how they beat you. They make you think you're alone.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. You threw it back.
Da-da-da-da-da. That's where I was going. Thank you, Steve. So
he mowed your line.
It's all right. But that's what I'm getting at. Is like Filoni gets it on a scale that is impressive. And, you know, we saw D23's announcement with Ewan McGregor that they're going to do a Kenobi series, and I'm like, I'm hoping. See, if you look at the last few movies here from 7, 8, 9, and you say, well, we're going to get JJ. JJ's a big name. We're going to get this Rain guy. We fucked up. We got to get JJ again. They're using all these big names, and it feels all those decisions do feel Disney corporate-y, pushed and this, that, and the other. But on this one, I think they got their dick slammed in the door so hard that when it came to this one, somehow between Favreau and Filoni, they just said, all right, we'll let these guys. It feels like I think Favreau were unmolested by.
I think if I'm reading this correctly, and I'm let's say I'm big time Disney executive. I'm like, Favreau gave us 1, 2, 3 Iron Man. Okay, he gave us those 3.
Yeah,
he's done. He's proven that he knows how to handle a major franchise.
Track record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing Favreau watched all of these fucking Star Wars Rebels. Yeah. I'm guessing he's just as much of a fan as Kevin and is like, these are fucking great. Who's directing that shit? Brought him on board. He's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this shit, and then they're finally going to know that you are the person to do this shit.
But you know what? It wasn't just, this is a 1-2 punch, man. This is not just a single punch. This is a 1-2, because I'm yet to see the full story on this. I just probably can Google it, but it's the combo of Favreau and Filoni.
Of course, because you got... Favreau knows how to tell a story, obviously.
Right.
But
they both know Star Wars, but it's much strong. The two of them together are causing something that is much stronger than anything else we've seen in Star Wars.
Because they have a really good collaborative... they have a very good collaborative mindset where they're like, listen, we're both super fans, but it seems like they both know how to check each other and be like, you know what? Too far. Or pull that back.
I think what he said sums it up pretty good. Is just everyone who's watched this show so far they've said, this guy gets it.
Right.
Whoever's doing this show, this guy gets it.
And it's not a this guy, it's a these guys.
These guys.
Yeah. And I hope that Disney doesn't sit there and get, like, I feel like they've had so much success maybe with Force Awakens, TFA, probably, if you look at box office, however you want to measure the success, they probably want to feel like, we got this.
Right.
And then they get all wrapped up in their heads and say, we can do anything. Rian Johnson. Yeah. We can do anything. And in this case, I feel like, I hope that they don't go with Kenobi. Hey, Favreau, Filoni, we're awesome again. We can do anything. Let's get some other director. Like, let's get Michael Bay. What the fuck? I would lose my mind. I hope that they go, these guys equal success.
I hope that's what they're setting up for, honestly.
I hope they
honestly, in my opinion, and I know this has probably been echoed everywhere, but in my opinion, the prequel movies really should have been the story of Darth Vader told through the eyes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because if you had done it that way, if you had taken away the Qui-Gons, if you had taken away all that other shit, it would have been two friends. It would have been Anakin and Obi-Wan, and then one of them slowly but surely falling away.
I think that's kind of what he tried to do, but...
Well, again, not really, because you got all these other fucking people in there.
You see the fall. Okay, in the movies, the fall is like this.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to watch. If you watch Clone Wars, that fall goes like this.
No, I understand that. That's what happens.
He's making a much more...
I'm making a gradual arc.
And it's not something he got tricked into, and it's not just over, like, Padme. Or
yes, he was manipulated.
Yeah.
And you see
because in the movies, he comes off as just a stupid guy. Like, he's just this guy who gets really easily tricked all the time.
Easily manipulated, overpassionate.
So, what I'm hoping in this Obi-Wan Kenobi movie... which I still don't understand where it takes. It's a series.
I don't care about any of that shit. I just want it to be Favreau and Filoni.
I understand.
But you realize that lowers the odds of them fucking this up by 1,000.
The reason I want it to be somebody like that is they understand that there's an importance to a story, but there's also the idea that this is a story that's interesting enough to tell. Right?
Yeah.
Because
the adventures of Obi-Wan during his...
The fall of Darth Vader sounds so interesting, right? But so does his redemption.
There
right?
are comics
Yeah. Now, both of those things are interesting stories, but the way they are told is total... There's one that was total horseshit and the other one that was done
in theory. They're very...
Exactly.
Yeah. But you know what? I will say that Favreau has the... how should I say? He has the... Not privilege, but like he's lucky enough to have a story that's not connected to anything else.
He has freedom.
Yeah, because the Force Awakens trilogy... They had to work within restraints, and they had to please this crowd of people that wanted to see the continuation of Skywalker. So, Obi-Wan Kenobi series still has restraints that it needs to work within. So,
yes,
who knows if it's dead in
the before it takes off,
you know, like.
But depending on when it's being told, only two things need to happen. Like he needs to escape. Like I don't know when it actually is, but I'm assuming it's young Kenobi. Right?
It's young. It's the time on his time on Tatooine, watching over Luke.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's badass.
Well, you know,
I actually like that.
Yeah. The thing is too is that like the prequel trilogy has gained like this weird meme audience, if I will. Yeah. Like people don't really
high ground.
People just love to shit on them, and it's become like to the point where they're just kind of like we love it because of that, you know.
Yeah.
So
you love it because it's hot shit.
Maybe,
but you know what? I literally just I had guest started another another podcast, and I actually convinced one of them, I think, he was in on these movies. He was like, I love these prequels, and then by the time I was finished talking to him about it. Kind of realized it's like I literally tried to watch this movie again and I found it to be very boring and I couldn't finish it. Mm-hmm. So I convinced, like throughout talking about it, he's like, yeah, I guess they're just not good movies, and I just like them because I saw them when I was a kid and I like lightsaber fights, and that's a big that's a big problem when it comes to the audience, right? Because the audience for Star Wars was a bunch of fresh-faced kids watching this thing happen. The kids who watched this series and the kids who watched The Rise of Skywalker are Kevin, essentially. Yeah. The people who've grown up with this, who have this huge, this huge amount of time and fandom sitting behind it.
That's what I was saying. Like, given the circumstances, they did the best they could because it wasn't just pleasing, 30-year-olds that are very opinionated. It's also like the general public that is now wanting to see a more diverse cast, or they want to see, a gay couple, or they want to see... Which is
why The Mandalorian being a success as much as it is. I mean, I honestly thought it was going to be terrible. Day one, I was like, this is going to be fucking horseshit.
It is crazy, too, because they do have, like, a diverse cast, and it doesn't feel forced at all.
No, it doesn't.
It feels like all the characters...
When did you think that?
When did I think it was going to be horseshit?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to explain really quick, because I know we've run out of time here, but it all comes from the fact that Boba Fett has this insane fandom.
Ernie does not like Boba
I don't
Fett.
like Boba Fett. And I know that's already, I've said this multiple times on this podcast. I don't like Boba Fett. Because I never understood.
Why don't you come to Celebration 2020 and say
that? Hold on. I don't like Boba Fett because I don't have the backlog of understanding we saw Boba Fett toy, and then we saw him in the movie, and then there's a whole thing that comes back.
Star Wars Christmas special was our first.
Okay, all right, okay, hold on. I understand that cartoon showed Boba Fett first. Okay?
We all thought that was the shiznit. Man.
Okay,
like, what?
But that's one little tiny piece of that dog shit that was a fucking episode. Anyway, so because I don't have all that backlog with me, I never understood the big deal with him, right? And now this was essentially, not totally, because obviously has nothing to do with Boba Fett other than the Mandalorian
name.
The name, right? So coming into this, I was like, this is going to be a bunch of fucking fan service. It's going to be a way for people who are in on Boba Fett to just jerk off.
And if you were to see that first scene, you might think that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like he uses the grappling hook.
He does. The flame...
Does he use the flamethrower?
No, not in the first scene, no. But,
The first episode, he definitely uses it, though.
Yeah. But that's why I came into it thinking this is just going to be a bunch of fan service. This is Disney. Disney's not going to pull, they're going to pull punches. They're not going to make it
specifically, was this the announcement of?
No, this was just leading up to it. I saw the trailers and I was like,
Did you not hear who the director was?
No. When I came into this...
Who wrote it?
No, all I came into it was... they're like, they're going to do Mandalorian. And he's like, cool. It's going to be fucking.
What if somebody had told you Jon Favreau had written it?
You know, I think I would have been more. I think that might have been why I gave it a shot.
Calmed you down?
I gave it a shot because of two things. One, my friend Meredith was like, give it a shot. You know, it's written by and it's serialized. I think you're gonna like it because she had seen a preview of it at D23 because she had been there. She's like, give it a shot because she didn't want to spoil anything. She didn't want to like put a bias on me. She's like, give it a shot, and that's why I essentially gave it a shot. But that fucking series had me in the first 5 minutes.
Right. Well, so I have the advantage on you, not just because of all this gray hair, but because because I had seen Clone Wars and all that. I knew who Dave Filoni was. Okay. And of course, my Facebook feed, I think, is a lot different than yours. The stuff I've signed up for. So when that was announced, I didn't just see that was happening. I saw who was attached to it. Yeah. And my head did twirled off the top and settled back on my shoulders. I said, this is like a perfect dream team. If I could cherry pick somebody to do something with Star Wars, I immediately was in. I was like, that's all you had to say right there.
Well, that right there tells me a lot.
Yeah.
Is that
it was less about the content.
It pleased people like Kevin, who already knew the pedigree of this going in, and it pleased people who were honestly had already written it off before it was already done.
Right.
So that tells you how great
the haters and the lovers love.
Yeah.
I've noticed out there, people that were hating on Last Jedi love this too. And I'm like, okay, that says a lot. That's huge. I'm talking about venomous.
No, I know. But I got to be honest, like everything about there's really small things that I don't like about it, which aren't even honestly worth mentioning. Because they're all things that my preferences, not necessarily problems with the story, because within the story they work. Like those little songbird things that he shoots out. I hated that they didn't use... What are they called?
Singing birds, sorry.
Singing birds. I love that he used them.
Yeah.
But I didn't love that they were ineffective in the second time that they used it. So it was like, it was almost like a fake out.
Nothing's perfect.
Right, exactly. And that feeds better for the story.
Yes.
But my preference was that it would be like an ultimate weapon later on.
Yeah, I do think that the first scene that he used them, I want to say they imagined that it looked a lot cooler than it did.
Yeah, well, in the production, again, going back to the production still looked so much better.
Yeah, it was a little underwhelming when he used it, because he kind of like, they flew around and I was like, just shoot them. They were like literally flying around for like half a second and I was like, just shoot them. But yeah,
you're calm, cool, and collected. I don't know how you'd behave in that moment.
No, that's true.
If something went flying around that room, you'd be like, "What?"
Yeah,
and then now you're dead.
No, that's true.
But see, those are the kind of things that are my preference, but they work better for the story.
I got a little taste of this back in the day. So a dear friend of mine, Max Cervantes, I have to get him on your show sometime. He is so much fun to talk to. He's a prop maker. Worked on all the big movies.
Right.
Beetlejuice, all the Star Treks.
He told me about the lightsaber stuff too.
He's badass. So he built my Vader costume for me. And he would tell me stories. He is a Boba Fett in the 501st. And so we would, over the years, we have talks. He would tell me back in the day about Mandalorians, and in Expanded Universe, he says, oh yeah, this armor that Mandalorians wear, it's basically lightsaber proof, and they were used to bring down Jedi.
I remember.
And I was like, ooh. Now this is back in like 96, 97. I was like hearing, he was telling me, I wasn't reading many books at that time on different things going on in my life, but Max did read these things, and he would tell me the lore, about things, and I learned a lot from him because he was deep and steeped in the lore. He's a little older than me, but so he's, and he's been on that production side of so much Hollywood stuff. He's made a lot of behind the scenes stuff, so he gets to hear, he's an R2 builder in the R2 Builder Club.
Oh, those are great.
He's brought me into that universe too, and that's fantastic. And we were mentioned that earlier, the 501st. They went to the R2 Builders Club when they had to start redoing these movies because it would have taken them forever to ramp up to bring R2 back and do the BB-8 and all that stuff. So
is that true?
Yeah, they hired it's a worldwide organization, and I guess a couple of guys over in England or Scotland or something like that are from the R2 Builders Club that did the BB-8. and also got them an R2 that they could, all that stuff would cost them.
Ship it around.
It would cost them so much money to go back and train all their FX guys on how to do R2s. There's a club of people. I just went. I fortunately got to go to the party this year, the annual party that they have, and I was surrounded by astromechs. And it was freaking amazing. I'll show you some pictures afterwards if you want.
That's cool.
Freaking incredible.
Nice. I think that's it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm looking forward to season 2.
No, definitely. I mean, I love what they did with this one. I love how concise the titles were. So to open up a season 2, because now at the end of this, it's become a clan of 2. He has his sigil. Yeah. And they're going forward with this. Honestly, this could follow this could follow another set of movie tropes that I really like. I won't say what because I kind of want to hold that information back. Okay. There's a lot of westerns that follow that whole I got to take this child to something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other movies that aren't westerns that follow that same thing. And if they follow the same storyline and the same kind of build up for a whole new season, I'm totally fucking in. And honestly, I'm looking forward to this so much more because it's going to expand. It's not going to expand on the Mandalorians, obviously, because he's not going to look for them. Right. Because there was, that scene at the end with all the helmets.
I thought it was kind of weird that they kind of hyped up him taking his helmet off too, because I was like, he's become a character in his own right already. Yeah. I feel like anything under that helmet is going to be underwhelming.
Well, no, I think that scene was less about him because we all know what that actor looks like.
Yeah, so it's not like it was too. I was like everyone.
The reason it was powerful is because he trusted a droid, and I think that was the idea.
You're totally right. Yeah,
and you're also gonna if you guys do get into the stuff I was telling you about earlier, you're gonna see that in both of those cartoons, the Mandalorians take their helmets off quite a bit.
Well, yeah, they gotta eat.
Quite a bit.
My excitement is for locating the species of Yoda.
Yeah. Or whatever it is they're going to do.
Well, exactly.
Whatever we're going to learn. We're going to learn something.
Right, but on his way to locate the species.
Is that what he's doing?
He's got to well, that's what I'm saying. That's one of the ways that they could go. So, going into the lore of that creature...
Be interesting.
I mean, if they do it right, like they've been doing so far, they've dived into the Mandalorian lore, and now they're going to go into this one. Now, does that mean that every single species of this creature is force sensitive? Are they going to now go into a force?
We're going to learn something.
That's what I'm saying. Now this becomes a new introduction to the force.
The other thing we're going to learn is how stupid a corporation can be. Is to see if they can truly understand what they have with Favreau and Filoni, and if they're going to move that over, also put that on Kenobi under them as well.
Well, let's hope so. Because honestly, the way that you talked about it the way that you talk about the other series makes me excited to see their collaboration here.
I would hope they just try not to spread them too thin, because Marvel's kind of doing that with Kevin Feige right now. They want him to do everything. Like they want him to do X-Men, and they want him to do all this other shit, and it's I would hope that this guy's not stressed out and overworked, just let him... He probably works best when he can focus on a few things at a time, not just...
Well, I mean, he does a good job when he lets others use their creativity, but he keeps
the ship pointed in the right direction.
Ragnarok is a great example of that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, definitely, because it's one of those ones where you can totally see the influence of the director, but the story is concise with all the other ones. Yeah. So I think that's his job.
I think these are the guys that should be steering the ship going forward.
Yeah, definitely.
That's my vote.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I can't thank you enough for coming down. I know it's been 4 hours now at this point. We're talking about Star Wars. Yeah. But we really appreciate you coming down.
I'm glad to do this. I kind of thank you guys because it's hard to find people to be willing to let me talk about this. I have plenty of friends. This is special for me, so I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
So overall, you would recommend The Rise of Skywalker?
Oddly enough, I saw it 4 times, and each time I didn't get bored. And
would you say it gets better?
I saw it in 3D, which was kind of cool. There's a few shots in there where the glasses help you with depth.
Okay.
And scope and scale of things, which is like when she's going into the Death Star, that shot down, you really get the scale of that. There's some stuff that the 3D really helps. It's not the 3D. I have issues with. On the whole, it was pretty cool to help with depth of and volume of some of those places.
Yeah, me and Ernie are definitely going to see it again soon at some point.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. And again, anytime you guys want to talk Star Wars stuff, I'm in 100%.
Well, there's more coming now.
Yeah.
I still owe a video game of yesteryear.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah. Are you gonna play the Star Wars video game, Fallen Order?
I don't game that much.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to, you should at least watch a playthrough because it's
that I would do.
I'm playing it right now, and I'm actually extremely surprised at how much I like it because
gameplay wise or story wise,
just like all over, I'm just like so. I'm like, why didn't they ever make a Star Wars like single player story game like this like in the last like 10 years? Because like Battlefront was more or less just like Call of Duty with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well, they did it back in the day. Was to start. Remember Dark Forces? That was
that's what I'm saying. That was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Though. Like,
original Battlefront had a story mode, and you end up playing. You're playing through the eyes of the clones. It turns out you're in the 501st.
That's cool.
Even better, it culminates with this balloon. I was by myself playing on the original Xbox, playing Battlefront, and I'm going through the story mode, and finally the Empire wins, and now we're stormtroopers, and the screen goes black, and it's dark, and all of a sudden, white hallway with rebels shooting at me.
Nice.
I was like, no way! We've never seen it. We only see it from the side
Not
at the beginning of the
reverse.
movie. Now we're seeing it through the eyes of the stormtrooper. And I'm trying to play the game. I'm going, I'm like, I can't believe it. But that was such a cool story arc as you go through the Clone Wars and you're fighting along with all your brothers. You start to hear how the clones think.
And you're the stormtrooper that gets choked out.
I just thought that was a fun storytelling, and nobody's gonna ever see, because most people are gonna play Battlefront and just think what you think. Especially this is the original Battlefront, by the way, and that's a fair thought. You look at
you're
how
not
it
talking
plays.
about the new one that just came out.
No, I'm talking about the original OG Battlefront.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like these newer ones.
This is Battlefront 3, the new one.
Is
This
it
is 2, and then
do they not have a story mode?
Not really.
No,
I think Battlefront 2 had a story mode.
I got when they just redid Battlefront, I think Battlefront 2, I got that when it came out. I played through it a little bit with my son. Teddy really wanted to play that.
But the only ones I would recommend is Knights of the Old Republic. It's the 2.
For story?
Yeah, well, definitely, because it's an RPG, and you can take that or leave it, honestly. But
Actually,
the one that was a lot of fun was Jedi Outcast 1 and 2.
Well, not to drag this out too long, because I know we're trying to end here, but I did hear that Revan is like canon now.
Yes, that got announced recently, and that would be a great movie.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many of those old Sith stories, legends, and stuff that would make great movies, so let's see what they do with it.
I would love to see Bastila on the big screen for once, She's in Kotar. But yeah, anyway, so we're the Radio Toons podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes.
Yeah.
You can follow us there. I'm Soho Shuffle at Twitter.
And I'm at Neil Ernie.
Yeah, anything to plug, Kevin?
I'm just Kevin Toft on Facebook.
If you want to get in touch, if you have any questions for Kevin or anything like that, if you want to write him down below, I'm sure we can get his answer in paragraph form.
Yeah. So that does it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys.
Thanks.